Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome to my first attempt of a midweek Premier League review. So today we've got Darren, Conroy, and Welford TV with us today, and we're going to go through some of the more interesting points of this week's football. So first, we're going to start off with what I thought was probably one of the craziest scorelines, probably not the craziest, but was Villa beating Arsenal. Arsenal seem like they have been doing slightly better in form recently, and I thought they're going to climb their way up the table slowly, but Villa seem to have stamped that out. Do you guys think? I mean, Arsenal are probably one of the bigger clubs out there that have absolutely taken the biggest tumble, and this season they've been literally the laughing stock of the Premier League. I'm going to start with you, Darren. Do you think there is any scope of Arsenal coming back if they keep Arteta in charge?
I think there's always a chance. It's a hard one to say because I know an Arsenal fan is a good mate of mine, and he's more disappointed about the fight that they show and how they express themselves. He seems to think that they lack a lot of leadership and the winning mentality, really. And that's something that doesn't seem to be a lot of unity at Arsenal or enough fight or that kind of winning spirit. You know what I mean? That sometimes when it's backs against the wall, they just turn up and say, right, we're better than these and let's have a go. Or when they're the goals down, they just seem to collapse, really. They have done well of late, though. They've turned things around. I think that all started when they played Chelsea. They gave Chelsea a humbling. They just bounced back, and I watched them that day. They were very good, very explosive, and they looked like a really good side. And I think going into that game, there was even talk of Arteta losing his job. But I believe that when you're bringing a manager like Arteta, he's been number two to Pep Guardiola. He's had very little experience as a manager, but he's had a lot of experience being a player. He's played in the Premier League at Arsenal. He's played for Everton. He's played in Scotland for Rangers as well. He's been a really good player. He's played internationally for Spain. I think, hasn't he, a couple of, I don't know if he's made many appearances, but he's played internationally. So he's been a really good player, and he's always, I suppose, he's been a kind of a real smooth operator, a composed player on the pitch, and he brings that presence. Obviously, in interviews, he's very calm, and as well as looking good, I suppose, because I remember watching it with my girlfriend a while ago. There was an interview he was doing. She says, "Is his hair fake?" You know, the way he has the. I says, "I don't know," but she says, "Yeah, no, he's a good-looking lad." And he's kind of laughing at us, saying, "Well, where does that put me?" But no, he's a good. You need to give someone like that time. I think if you bring the manager with very little experience, he hasn't had a chance to bring in a lot of signings. The players he has brought in have done okay for him, but look, it's a competitive league. You have Liverpool, you have City there, you have Chelsea spending all the money they have, you have United spend the money that they have where there's pressure. Spurs as well have spent a lot. They've changed managers. It's very, very competitive. I don't really know, to be honest. I find this difficult to say, give a yes or a no. So I'm a bit on the fence about it. I don't know a lot about Arsenal apart from talking to my mate about them, but what I've seen of them, they seem to be more down than up. And it's just like the Arsenal I knew growing up, the Invincibles and all that. They did a lot of good players and winners, and they were never really far away from success. But with this team, I just don't see that. I don't see top four as realistic for them. I don't even see them win the trophy. But having saying that, I would have said the same last season. And they got wins in the FA Cup, some big wins, beat Man City, beat Chelsea in the final, and they delivered. So FA Cup and Arsenal at Wembley goes hand in hand, really, in the last couple of seasons. So they seem to kind of, I don't know, maybe settle for that. I've watched a bit of Arsenal fan TV, and that's kind of up and down, and they're very quick on that to slate them as well. So I don't know. I really don't know, but I would like to see a competitive Arsenal team because I've no dislike towards the club. You know what I mean?
Yeah, understandable. So I'm going to go with Welford next. They've got I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Odegaard in recently, and he was meant to be one of the Real Madrid's biggest prospects at one point. Do you think he is going to be successful in the Premier League?
For me, yeah, I watched the Villa game the other week early on Saturday, I think it was, and yeah, to be fair, I think Arsenal got robbed in that game. I think they were very, very good. They went into a bit of a higher gear too late, in my opinion. They started pressing a lot, started going for it too late, in my opinion, to give them only a short amount of time to get back in the game. But I think overall they look quite solid, Arsenal, and obviously they had a massive blip early on in the season. We're in the relegation battles, everyone was taking the mick out of them. Then obviously that Chelsea result was just nuts. And then they started finding a bit of form. They dominated the game at West Brom away, and they've had some decent results. But I think for me, Odegaard, when I've seen him play, came on against United, he looked good, looked quick on the ball, and he's quite an attacking player. Obviously, he plays in that like number 10 role, like Coutinho, that used to play for us. But yeah, I feel like he could be a very good talent, and I know obviously he didn't live up to expectations at Madrid, but Madrid are one of them teams where if someone doesn't score 15 goals in the debut season, they all start writing them off. So it is hard to do something good there with so many good players around him. He didn't get in the team a lot, but for me in this Arsenal team, they've obviously had Smith Rowe, the young lad who's been phenomenal, with Saka, who have done very well. But I feel like for me, you can't rely on him to be playing as your number 10, getting goals and assists every game for such a young lad, barely any experience. But I feel like for me, Odegaard, a lot older, a lot more experience. I think he can bring something to feed the balls into Aubameyang and Lacazette, who haven't been the best. You know, Aubameyang has been, the last 2-3 years, he's always been fighting for that golden boot. He's obviously got it sometimes with Mane and Salah over the past couple of years. But I feel like for me, Odegaard can supply them with a bit more attack and threat. And I feel like for me, he'll starting in the team. I think maybe the weekend coming up. I'm not too sure who they have. But yeah, he looks a good player. And I feel like for Arsenal, he fits Arteta, and obviously Arteta walked into the job in a very tough spot. I'd say they weren't obviously performing the best. He managed to get a trophy out of them. But yeah, for me, he looks good, and I reckon he can do bits there and hopefully perform. Because as Darren said, I don't mind Arsenal, and obviously I grew up a little bit later after they were like one of the best teams in England and dominating England for so long and winning trophies left, right, and centre. But yeah, I feel like for me, Odegaard's a great player to have, and it's a great signing to get on a free, and hopefully they can maybe make that permanent in the summer, which would be great for them. But yeah, he's a good talent and a very good player.
I mean, it's nice to see, in a way, like all these big names come into the Premier League, because for me, the Premier League has always been the best league out there by a lot.
Definitely.
And it's nice to see that some of the bigger players come to the Premier League. I wish that we could see names like Messi and Cristiano in the Premier League, but I don't know if it's fair to say that they've passed their peaks yet. Ronaldo just seems to be getting better and better by the year, but that's a story for another day. Conroy, so I actually wanted to switch the conversation to Villa a little bit, because Villa managed to nick an early goal to make it 1-0 against Arsenal. Grealish has been in the headlines a lot because he has been this season absolutely phenomenal, and I've been able to keep up with it because I've got him on my fantasy league, on my fantasy team. And I mean, I've actually heard talks of a lot of Liverpool fans on Twitter and Instagram talking about wanting Grealish at Liverpool. Would you take Jack Grealish at Liverpool?
See, before this season, after last season's performance, no, not for me. But then this season, I've got to be honest, he's really changed my opinion. It's a bit like Maddison, actually. They've both changed my opinion, because everyone, a flash in a pan is not the accurate statement, but I think people forget young English players like could be good and they get called great. It's always higher, and it does annoy me because you can call it. I've called a lot of them over the years. I called Luke Shaw. Said Luke Shaw had 1 assist at Southampton before Man United signed him, but of course he's going to be the next best left back. That didn't pan out. The proof's in the pudding there. With Grealish, though, I've got to be honest, I don't think he plays like an English player. And I don't want the Gaza compare. I'm not saying that I think he just plays like his own player. I think he's very intelligent. I think people forget that he has played in the Premier League before. So all these pundits saying it's not his first season. He played when Villa got relegated, and I think he played his first goal against Leicester away. He looked good, but for me, he actually didn't look like. He looked like he didn't know what position he was. You couldn't work out if he was a centre mid or a winger. But now I think he could actually boss either position. The thing with Grealish, I don't know if you agree with Maddison, but for me, I think Liverpool should sign him in the sense of, right, it's going to cost you either 80 million or it's going to cost you 50 million, and then a player, like a lot of folk have been saying, like maybe a Knox or something like that goes the other way. I could see it being like an 80 million signing. But the thing is, you've got age with Grealish. You've also got a player who can play in numerous positions. With that, Klopp likes that. He likes that, a bit of adaptability. I used to be so much against it and didn't believe the hype, but I've got to be honest, I've watched them. I think a shout out has to go to, though, Ross Barkley's been a really good signing for them, and John McGinn, not the Scottish shout again, but he's been solid for about 2 years for them as well. Not talking about his Sean Dyche comments, but he has been a good player for them. Watkins as well, like I don't know why, like it's a top six syndrome, isn't it? See, when a top six team does it, it's like we just go on about the attacking players. Ollie Watkins has scored 10 Premier League goals for Aston Villa, right? For me, if you're doing it for a team like the season Villa had last year, I think you've got a bigger shout at getting a call up for England. It's a bit like probably Bamford deserves a shout as well. I mean, I don't think you can argue with that. On actually Finn's point about Arsenal, it was a really good point. How they've been on a good run, but I actually think in other years Arsenal would have continued that run. But when they played Wolves, they lost, and Villa. I think because it's such a weird season, and because actually the quality of teams lower down now have got, I'd say every team's got like at least one brilliant player.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just sneak that result anymore. You have to be at it. And I think Arsenal done okay, but I just think Villa look like a different type of animal. I can't believe they're maintaining this form, because it's not been like luck. They've had bad spells and then lost to Leeds at home. Was it 3-4-0? But then they've came back and they've beat teams. I really like Villa, and I would take Grealish. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, I'd definitely take him. I feel like you mentioned a lot of points then, but I feel like another one, he's never injured. He's always available. We know Wijnaldum, Robertson for Liverpool are two massive players that are always first name on the team sheet, in my opinion, always available. And for me, Grealish, he can play in a lot of positions, left, mid, can he shift to centre mid. But the big thing with Villa is it's especially with Villa, like we've seen a lot of teams like Sheffield United last year who did very, very well, did it better than expected of them. But the fact that we've seen Villa in the Premier League last year and they were awful. Give us a good game and the home fixture in November. It was a very good game, which we managed to get 3 points out of in the last 30 seconds, which is mad. But I feel like, for me, seeing how bad they were last year and how good they are now, like every position in that Villa team is solid. The keeper Martinez has been class, one of the best keepers in the league. Big shout for keeper of the season, in my opinion. I'd say definitely most consistent keeper as well. Obviously with Alisson the other night, but and their centre half, Konsa is so underrated. I think he's the better one out of him, and Mings. Konsa is so good.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
English overrated as usual.
I mean, Konsa just gives something else, and he never really makes mistakes. Mings, we've seen at City away, which I know was offside and stuff like that, but he can make a mistake. And Douglas Luiz was new to the league last year. He was awful. A bit like Naby Keita when he first joined Liverpool, he was a bit iffy, couldn't find the pass or so. But now the whole team is solid. They all work hard and they defend like a proper English team and are solid, they're compact. And they've kept one less clean sheet than Man City, and that is saying something when the levels, the price tags, the names are so much different, and to do so well, to be so high up on the table, and they've battered us, they've dominated so many games and deserved a lot more points out of results, in my opinion. I think should have got more points away at Old Trafford. Same as City, played well for 80 minutes, but then just dropped off. But every single position is massive. They all work hard. They're always up for it. For me, maybe another winger on the right-hand side and maybe would do something. But I'd take any Grealish or Watkins. They've both been class, and they both get like a goal involvement in every game, I reckon, for Villa. They're both class, and Villa are just a great team, and you can't hate them of what they've done. And Dean Smith deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that I love about Villa is the fight that they're having. It seems like all 11 players on the pitch have it. Something that sometimes misses from the top teams. Like, I think Arsenal would be a good example. A bunch of players teams who come out onto the pitch as if they've already achieved something. And so I'll be honest, sometimes I feel like I do see it at Liverpool, where players walk onto the pitch and they come onto the pitch as if they've already achieved something. Whereas it seems like
they're going to win.
Walk onto the pitch, even though Jack Grealish is everyone's singing his praises, and he's on at least 20% of people's fantasy teams. He's actually working hard every single game to prove himself, and I love to see it. But I'm going to move on to the next game. Probably not the most exciting game, anyways. But Brighton versus Burnley.
Our favourite teams.
Do you know? I'll tell you what. Brighton, by the way, I don't know if you've watched much of Brighton during the season, but I've got to see if they had a striker, they would be lethal. Honestly, the amount of games they've missed, like they've created more chances than Liverpool in some games, and I'm not even exaggerating. Like if they had a striker, they would be ridiculous.
They play some good football, and for like a team like that, like you see, I'd say they're quite not a relegation battle, but the low 15ish, and what Graham Potter does is just ridiculous. He plays so like football, open football. He's not bothered. Like we see Burnley, they put every single man behind the ball. No offense to Burnley, but it's what they do and it works for them. Whereas Brighton are a completely different team. They play like a top six side. They're always willing to play out from the back. They've got solid centre halves. That back line just terrors us. You can't get anywhere near them. Or big, physically strong. They're so like determined. And again, they're a team that fight. Everyone on the pitch is running back. Mopé, I know you have an out-and-out striker, but Mopé does a shift, can get a goal or two, and he'll work hard as well. You've got Connolly on the bench. You've got some great talent, and young lad Tarek Lamptey, one of my favourite players in the Premier League. I love to watch him. so energetic, so fast, always just like a general good wing back. But yeah, again, Brighton, they play so good football, so open played football for such a team of that. I don't know what to say about being critical of them. Like, they're a great team, but to be that low in the league and people don't really see them as a top table team, to play so openly football and don't care, don't sit everyone on the back. They want to go and get results. And yeah, they're one of the favourite teams to watch in the league. Graham Potter's done a great job and deserves a load of credit, like Dean Smith does for Villa. They play some very, very good football.
Definitely interesting football, and I love to see it. And it's a shame that Lamptey's been out for a bit, because he's
so good.
Oh, he's honestly so good. I don't think he's going to be there for long. But Burnley are 23 points, 17th place, and they are only one position above Fulham, who are at 18 points. Do you think it's safe to say that Burnley are out of the relegation scrap yet?
No, not this season. I think it's too weird
I
this season.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, because even like teams like, it sounds a bit mad, and I'm not being cliche, but even like Sheffield United, I think they'll go down, but I think they'll probably go down swinging, so they'll probably take a few points. I mean, they bet, was it West Brom the other night, so I don't know. And even Fulham, by the way, I don't know if you've watched Fulham, but they had a spell. They do. Like, see what annoyed me when we played Fulham, right? A lot of people were going on about how poor Liverpool were. I thought Fulham, right? That Anguissa in that game was like on everything. Like, you couldn't get near him. And there is some games where Liverpool have been poor, but I think there's other games where you need to give credit to the opposition. Like, they actually outplayed us. So with Burnley, I've not got a thing against Burnley. It really annoys me when people are like, oh, Brighton, Burnley, they sat in. What are they meant to do? You're against Liverpool. Like, that's not an excuse. That's never an excuse. If it was about open play, then the best teams would always beat the teams lower down. It's the most irrelevant argument, but people it's commentators sitting on the fence, isn't it? You hear it all the time. But I think Burnley, I don't know. I think I've got a feeling they could be right in it towards the end of the season. I don't know if you agree, Darren.
Yeah, well, they're only 2 points behind Newcastle and Brighton, and they've a game in hand. So if they win that, they could go, I think it's up 14 position, 15. So they'd look a lot safer. I think they'll be safe. They've good Premier League experience now. They're almost nearly, you call them, an established Premier League team. And it's a good point you made there, Conroy. I don't think they need to express themselves or play a different style of football. I watched them against United a few weeks ago, and they were unlucky. They've done a lot of good stuff in the game. There's just a bit more class from United, and they were a bit more... They were obviously clinical, they got the goal, but they were a bit more resilience they showed. But Burnley, look, they'll be up and down, but I think that they're safe. I mean, going to Anfield, getting a win that night, that they every time the ball went up to the big lad up front, what was his name? He got the penalty for Burnley.
Barnes.
He was very good that night, and he was very dangerous and threatening, and he had a lot of kind of half chances, and a lot of the ball just in Liverpool's half didn't create a lot, but he done enough that night to be a handful and was a big threat. And then obviously the patience paid off, the resilience paid off, and they got the win. Most of the time they probably would have getting a point out of the game or lost, but that type of team, Sean Dyche is doing an unbelievable job there for the resources that he has. The couple of seasons are in the league now. A lot of us I was probably one of them at the start of the season, would have said they're in big trouble, but just over the halfway mark in the season, they have a game in hand. They're on, I think is it 23 points, there's 8 points between them and Fulham. I think they're safe enough. Yeah, I think having that gap ahead of Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United too, I don't know if they will all go down, but they're the favourites at the moment to go down. Like 8 points isn't huge, but it's a nice bit of breathing space, and it just alleviates some of that pressure on them at the moment. I think they'll be okay. I can't see Burnley going down because I don't see Fulham and West Brom finishing ahead of them, but time will tell.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, it's been such a freak season, anything possible. I mean, I really like those points Conroy made. Of course, these teams are going to play to their advantages, especially against teams like Liverpool. There's been obviously, like, after what Klopp's interview after the game, and he was talking about Liverpool's fatigue and everything. So not the City game, the game before that. He's talking about Liverpool's mental fatigue and everything. Why is it that we only speak about this when it comes to Liverpool? What is it about Liverpool that only the Liverpool players seem to have the fatigue? Why is it not teams like Burnley, Brighton or anything? Why do those players not seem to suffer from the same sort of affair that we're overlooking? That for them, to be honest, 90 minutes for them is a lot harder than 90 minutes is for Liverpool. Obviously, we've got the pressure that we need to get the goal, but having to stay disciplined at the back, like the way Brighton and Burnley both did against us, is incredibly hard for 90 minutes of the game. And to be honest, if you watch the game from a different perspective, even the highlights, you can only imagine how difficult it is constantly chasing down the ball, constantly closing gaps, knowing if you make just one little mistake that Liverpool are going to go through that gap and break it down. And obviously, I'm assuming that would have a stronger mental fatigue on the players than what Liverpool have experienced in recent times. Why is it that we just talk about it?
Well, I think a lot of it, sorry lads for jumping in there, so you've just it sprung to mind there. I think a lot of it is the mainstream media really that will quote everything Klopp says, Liverpool say, and that's always been something against the top sides. But I think the difference there is they are mentally and physically fatigued as much as Liverpool. But the difference with Liverpool and them is Liverpool, every game's a must win for them. Every game has to have that intensity, that energy, where they don't need to win every game. They can go through 4 or 5 games of losing or getting a point, and there's no really questions asked. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of like, well, they're expected to be there. They're 17, they're 16, so, and they're not playing obviously as much football because they don't seem to go as far in the cups. Well, haven't saying that Liverpool don't go far either in the cups, but we've European football, and a lot of games it's just must wins for Liverpool. They're all must win. Same with City, United, Spurs, Arsenal, and I think that's why. So if I think the whole thing with Liverpool, like I heard Roy Keane there the other day, and just while that sprung to mind as well, bringing up that point about being bad champions. Well, I remember United in 13-14 season after Alex Ferguson was sacked, they went from champions to finish in 7th. And not only did they finish 7th, they finished 5 points outside the top 6. Spurs finished 6th that season, they finished 5 points behind them. We see Man City last season were embarrassed in terms of the title race, albeit they got 2nd, but they ended up finishing 18 points behind Liverpool. And I think it would have been a wider gap only for Liverpool had the title won and we became a bit complacent. Then we chopped and changed a few things towards the end of the season and kind of had a bit of a hangover from that party that we had when we won the title. So there's a lot really that, you know, Roy Keane is on Sky and he'll be quoted on a lot of the stuff he'll say. He knows the camera is on him. He'll kind of play up to the camera. He's a little thing there with Michael Richards. And I wouldn't take that in serious. No, every team that's been champions, every team that's had a great manager winning mentality, they've all had their fall downs. And for the last 4 seasons, we've had that high energy, that pressing, that intensity. We've had so much of that week in, week out, season in, season out, that eventually when you do go off the boil, there's going to be questions asked. And a lot of this is only coming because we're on a bad streak. But I'd be just a bit calm about it and let's trust in the process. But yeah, that's the rant done on Roy.
No, it's do you know what though? It's like, don't give into it, because all that is it just wants Liverpool fans to get a bit rattled. It's so obvious. Listen, I was on a channel and they're saying worst, and I didn't even answer. I didn't even get angry. I'm like, because that's what they want. I'm just like smiling. Listen, Leicester doesn't even count because, you know, Leicester done amazing, right? Come on, Chelsea, Mourinho. I don't have to get into that because I know that's a fact. They can say because it's Liverpool. It doesn't matter. It's factual. It's not, you know. But people just want us to. Fans nowadays just can't be loyal to the manager anymore. And see, because I think every Liverpool fan should be, but there might be a few keyboard gangsters who disagree. The fact is, we're quite calm. I don't think people like that nowadays because they're not used to seeing that. Apart from, like, obviously fans for like teams who are not in for it, I think like they're actually proper fans as well because they're not expecting to win. They just enjoy the game. But it's like these Klopp out things, I'm like, just like, we're not getting rattled because we love that man. He's brought us here. I just don't think people like seeing calmness because I'm smile sometimes just because I don't know what else to do. But
they want an Arsenal fan TV reaction.
Yeah, but we just like, we've won a Champions League and a Premier League, right? You know, it's like, come on, context is everything.
I'd rather be bad champions than be great runners up as well, because I mean, second, as Shankly said, forces everything. Second,
but that's what we were though, eh?
You know,
we're always runners up. We win it, and now we're bad champions. You can't win. So there's no point reacting. There's no point reacting.
That's a good point, Conroy.
The pundits are going to over Liverpool with a magnifying glass because they know it's going to rile up the fans. And the thing is, the expectations of Liverpool fans is so much higher. Like, if you take a club like Crystal Palace, for example, with Roy Hodgson, their football has been 4-4-2, very boring football for most of the season. They haven't achieved half the results that they should have. And to be honest, it's been ongoing like that for 2-3 seasons. They've had Benteke playing up front, who I think has probably the worst striking record in the Premier League ever, if that's even possible.
What happened to Benteke, by the way? He used to be ridiculous.
Honestly, I remember when I was watching the FA Cup semi-final, luckily I got tickets for the game where Liverpool played Aston Villa, and I saw him and Grealish link up to rip Liverpool to shreds. And I thought, this Benteke guy is going places, and it seemed like that was the height of his career. It just went downhill since. But the thing is, one thing I've realised is Crystal Palace fans, they don't put that sort of pressure on the manager as much as Liverpool fans would. And the thing is, of course, we're going to expect more results as a club like Liverpool than Crystal Palace would. But I've never seen, to be honest, I can't even really think about many lower league teams where suddenly fans are switching on the manager and saying, you know what, it's the manager's fault. Klopp, well, obviously not Klopp, but Roy Hodgson out, and just kind of turning on the manager, or even Dyke out, to be honest. But you're right, and they sit over the magnifying glass because they just don't like the calmness. They want to see something more. But we're going to move on to the next game. Walford, I'm going to go with you. Newcastle, Southampton. Game, 5 goals, a red card, and a goal by Takumi Minamino from Liverpool. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I watched that. My dad shot me down after Minamino scored. I was buzzing for him. Great goal, may I just say. Great touch inside and great balance to find the roof of the net. But yeah, Newcastle obviously being very, very poor. I know quite a lot of Newcastle fans through doing YouTube and that, and when we play each other, we speak a lot. And I feel like for me, a lot of them haven't been happy. Like, I know you just said lower clubs don't really turn on the manager, but I feel like a lot of Newcastle fans have started to realise how if something doesn't change, they could be down there, maybe not relegation deep, but they can be like just above it. And no Newcastle fans to see that. They have been a great club over the past couple of years, but yeah, it was a great game, and obviously Southampton have been very, very good this season, but haven't won a game in 5, which is mad. I think we got beat by them, and they started off so well, obviously being top of the league for a couple of hours one weekend. But yeah, Newcastle, obviously St. Maximin's back. I think he's a great player, so tricky and just so hard to mark. He physically just don't know where he's going to go, don't know what he's going to do. And also Almiron took a long time to get into the rhythm of the Premier League. A lot of people were slating him off, didn't like him, and then this season and a bit at the end of last season when the fans weren't in, it seemed like he just flipped and started being a good player. And I think for me, I think he got 2 goals in that game. I think the own goal got overturned because I think it was on target. But them two look a very, very big threat. And Callum Wilson did go off injured, which you don't want to see because he is in my fantasy team and was doing quite well, to be fair to him. But that would have been a perfect front three for them, I think, with the 4-2-3-1, Almiron right, St. Maximin left, and him up front. But obviously, hopefully, it's not too serious, the injury of Callum Wilson, but we know he can be injury prone. But yeah, again, I was very shocked by that result. I think Newcastle have been very, very poor since like I say, since early December. They've been quite poor, not got many results. They should have got a lot. They got beat by Sheffield United, who hadn't had one win the whole season. That was the first win, I think. So Newcastle have been very, very poor, but that game hopefully does give them a bit of a boost. I don't mind them, but Ward-Prowse again with another ridiculous free kick. Every time I see him live taking a free kick, I think he scored. I just sit there and you go, oh, free kick, yeah. He did against United when I was watching that. He just seems to always score no matter what happens. It's just, but yeah, I feel like Southampton will be fine. I reckon they'll get back up with another result on the weekend, and hopefully Newcastle can get back-to-back wins for the first time in a long time. But I don't mind both of them, and I hope they do well. And they both had, I think Southampton a bit of a blip like us now, but Southampton have got a great team. They've obviously been unlucky with injuries. Vestergaard's been out. They got hammered 9-0 by United, which obviously that's not going to do anything to your confidence when you've not won 1 in 5. But yeah, I hope for both teams you start going decent run of form, and I feel like Southampton can still maybe get 8th, 9th maybe, but I think Europe is out the question for them now. Maybe a couple of weeks ago, before December, late November, people might have been saying, hang on, Southampton are finally going in the next year, because we know they've always been mid-table, they've always been 9th, 10th, they've always give big teams a bit of a go. But yeah, unfortunately for them, it did kind of kill off after Christmas. But I like both teams, and I hope they do bounce back, and I reckon they should do it these games coming up on the weekend.
It'll be interesting to see. So I'll go with Conroy. Southampton came off the back of a 9-0 loss, like Welford was saying, and they had to come into this game and make a bit of a statement for themselves, because it's not been the best run of form for them. If I'm not wrong, they haven't picked up a point in the last 5 games. What happened to Southampton? I mean, at the beginning of the season, people were talking about Southampton trying to fight for a spot in potentially the Champions League. And then we were talking about Europa spots, and then suddenly they've just plummeted down the table. And I think they're drawing points with Palace at the moment. What do you think like a turning point for Southampton was, or what do you think is going on?
Not to be like, I don't like when people go on about injuries, but I genuinely feel like Southampton. I looked at I didn't even bother watching the Man U Southampton game. I wouldn't usually watch a United game anyway, but I looked at their squad for that, and obviously the young guy, the young guy they brought on. I mean, I don't care what age you are. I mean, I'm not having a go at the guy. It's his first game, but I mean, you might as well just not started when you're doing that, because you've basically like
lost your team in the game.
Absolutely lost. There's losing, and then there's like, I don't even know if you can. Everything Man United touched went in, but my point is, I think it is their injuries. I think they're just depleted, and I hate when people use that excuse. But the only squad I kind of said that with last season, it's not the. I think the top six, most we get away with, the budget of getting a deeper squad if we can. But Leicester last season, I don't know if he's actually watched Leicester's last couple of games. They literally lost half their team.
Yeah,
Like
Ricardo,
it was ridiculous. Yeah, Luke Thomas had to play at left back, and it was like they
Ricardo
genuinely.
Pereira was out for like 10 months.
I thought he was the best
he was
right
like
back.
so good.
Up there with Trent, yeah.
Him and Soonchu last year were very, very good.
Yeah, so it's like I thought like that Southampton, I looked at that squad and I was like, I did feel sympathy for the manager, and then that happened in the first minute. And I mean, he must be thinking, I'll just go and sit in the changing room. What is the point? We've practiced all week and that's what we've done. Honestly. But then I've got to be but I've got to be honest, I actually think that Newcastle result was just as bad, because Newcastle had 10 men for, was it 40 minutes, and then 9 men for 7? No, sorry, maybe 25 and 17. I'm not sure exactly. But I'm sorry, if you get leathered 9-0 by Man United because you're down to 10 men, I don't care what anyone says about teams sitting in, right? You just be smart about it. You use the width, right? Professional teams at the top level should be able to at least get a draw at that game. For me, that's cemented that they're completely got, like, their form is completely off. I feel for Danny Ings a bit now, because he's probably thinking, they were great. They're very good, Southampton. Like, Hasenhüttl's football is good. It's strange to say that a guy who's lost 9-0 twice, but I do actually think they're very much with the manager. I do think the last couple of games it was context, but the Newcastle one, for me, you've got to stick by your principles. And I think when a team's down to 9 men and you can't equalise with just under 20 minutes to go, that's not good enough for a team that actually has intelligence of football, because they're top footballers. That's not good enough, considering. I thought that was quite poor management not to get that goal. To be honest, Newcastle, I know I just said, like you said, safe about lower teams and maybe not wanting the manager out, but see, to be honest with Newcastle, right, I don't know how Steve Bruce does it. They seem to be like, this is it, he's getting sacked. It's a bit like the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He pulls out Everton away, and then he does that against, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think McCarthy had Newcastle on the coupon because he had a wee Allison special. I don't know if you saw that, passed it straight out.
The second goal, the third goal,
and then he left half the goal open for him as well. I don't know if anyone noticed that, but I actually don't mind McCarthy. I think he's quite a good keeper, but he's got some moments, and I'm like, but I feel like Newcastle, you know what? They're not going to get relegated, and then we're all going to say as opposition fans, well, he's doing a good job. But then I'm actually starting to understand now that it must be very frustrating to be a Newcastle fan, because I don't know. It must just that the football is their culture, and it's like they're not asking for much. They just want see like the way Bournemouth played when they were in. That's what Newcastle want. They want good football. That's all they want, and they would be happy with that. And I used to say they're always moaning. Rafa Benitez is the same style, but see, to be fair, I kind of get it now, because I've watched a few games and I was like, there just seems like there's no motivation, and I think that would take its toll on anybody. So I understand why they want a bit of a change now, but I don't think Benitez is the way to go. I think they need to get I think a Howe would be a much smarter manager for Newcastle, someone who's going to play good football. So that was my takes on it.
That's right. One more question. We move on to the next game for Darren. Do you think Takumi Minamino is the answer to Southampton's question at the moment?
I think he played fairly well, and the goal he took was brilliant. And I think Southampton went to Newcastle. Just going off that, back to the point there, they played at times very well for a team to come up with 9-0 hammering. Do you know what I mean? That would have completely deflated them. But I've seen that game, they were more creative in terms of they'd more shots on goal, they'd more possession, they were a bit more comfortable with the ball. So to come out of that game and lose 3-2, they would have been scratching their head saying, how did that happen when we'd far more possession, we did create more on goal. But I suppose when you lose 9-0, to go out in a game and to even get 2 goals in your next game and narrowly end up losing it, because it's not a huge scoreline, they got lost 3-2 and it's away from home. It's some kind of, I suppose, relief for Southampton, because they know that they can only improve on that now, that they haven't completely lost it. But Minamino, I think he will be. He comes with great experience. He's a tidy little player. He's strong as well. We look at him sometimes and think he's not up to the physicalities of the Premier League, but I think he is strong. And I think he's strong as you need to be, because in the Premier League, the physicality has gone over it now, because obviously you get booked easier now and the free kicks being given easier. So as much as it's a physical sport, it's also, you don't have to be that physical. But he took his goal brilliantly, and I think so far so good for him. We seen Danny Ings at Liverpool hadn't got the best of times, went there and hit the ground running, done brilliant wonders last season. I've other fans texting me he would have fit in great for you to replace Firmino there, and he probably would have. But you have to remember there's a big drop off as well in class when you're talking about Southampton, Liverpool. But let's hope so. So if
I mean,
and he can come back.
Hoping that he has his run of Premier League football that he needs now, because he wasn't getting it at Liverpool. And I'm hoping that next season.
How much is it going to cost though for Liverpool? It'll cost about 80 million to get him back.
Oh yeah, I know. But
Yeah,
like there's no way Southampton no, this one too many. You've had too many. Enough's enough.
Yeah.
We're not giving you any more players.
Yeah, more players before they actually name them Liverpool reserves. But
I know.
Moving on to the next game, Fulham West Ham, probably one of the more boring games this weekend, a 0-0. To be honest, I really can't even think of many talking points from this game.
Oh, mate, do you not remember?
The records.
The suit check.
Yeah, sorry, I completely forgot Mitrovic. Yeah.
VAR.
What was
It's
that?
overturned.
VAR is going absolutely mad. And the referee has a chance to review it. Oh my God.
Do you know what? I might have an unpopular opinion here.
There's two things that was wrong with that. I think for one, I could say two, but I wrote four. But I think for one, Fulham played very well. I think deserved at least a point out of the game, which they did get. But I feel like they could have got a lot more. West Ham were a bit off it, but they've been in great form and they deserve a blip or two in the next couple of games. West Ham, but I feel like for me, Fulham did very well and probably deserved to have them win more than West Ham. But with the red card, to be fair, I am on the fence a little bit. But I just feel like for me, you can tell when it's aggressive or not. And the fact that Mitrovic wasn't happy with it, he was storming over to the ref saying it wasn't a red card and that. And there's another. The second thing is like the way Kenny Dalglish's daughter Kelly, who works in Sky, was saying to Jimmy Redknapp is that the reason he checked it was if it was a clenched fist, to see if he was doing it like in anger and to do it to hurt him. Which Souček is obviously not a bad player. He's very, very good. Never wants to make any dirty tackles or so, even though that is technically his job to get a foot in. But I feel like for me, the way Mitrovic reacted, he showed that it wasn't that bad either. But I feel like for me, obviously, is contact with the elbow, which is dangerous. If someone goes sliding in, even if it's just low, if they catch him on the ankle and it's deemed dangerous, they normally do get sent off. So I can see that. But the worrying thing is the way they took so long. It was on. They were on for about 3-4 minutes, which is worrying to take that long. And
Terrible.
Second of all, for I think it was Paul Murray. I don't know who was in the VAR actually at Stockley Park, but the fact that he needed to go and send Mike Dean over to the screen to look at it, when for me it's an easy. For me, it wasn't a red card, so I'm happy it's been overturned. I can't see the point of it, but I feel like for me, everything in Stockley Park is not a hard decision. If you think it's in the laws of the game, if it's reckless and it can hurt the player, then you send him off. If you think that was no intent, it just skims him. And the last thing I want to mention on this is the abuse that Mike Dean has been getting is shocking, and you don't want to see it. And the way
not surprising, was it? It's a football fan sometimes, eh?
I know, and the fact that he's had to call off, he can't ref on the weekend is sad to see. And one of the best Premier League managers I've witnessed, he's been around for so long. I remember he used to send Gerrard off quite a lot. He's had like 6 red cards this season, but for me, you never want to see that, and he made a mistake. But I feel like for me, the person in his ear plays a massive part in it. It's not just him. The person who's in his ear saying, "I'm not too sure. You're gonna have to make the final decision. You're gonna have to do this. You're gonna have to go over there, look at the screen and stuff." So there's so much pressure on Mike Dean to get it right. But for me, you never want to see anyone get abused, no matter what it's for, no matter how bad the scenario is. I've seen it with Twan Zabi, who's been called so many racist comments for giving away a free kick, which any player could have give away. I think no matter who was in that pitch for United, any player could have given that free kick away. So for me, the abuse over the past couple of weeks, players, refs, has been shocking, and the fact that he had to pack in reffing this weekend is shocking. And see one of the Premier League greatest referees to do that is not what you're going to see. And football fans, just some of them need to look at themselves and realise that it's been overturned, everything's fine, and to give someone abuse, death threats, have a go at his family is just shocking. And if it was a way round, they would not be happy. And yeah, it's just not fair, and you don't want to see it. And this sport is so good; a lot of people fall in love with it, and it's some people's lives, like mine. And to see people getting abused because of a mistake that maybe they made, but some people disagree. Like Conway might disagree with me, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And the thing is,
no, don't worry. I agree with you. Very much.
Oh, you saying I've got an opinion? I was like, oh no.
No. Look, a lot of us have been brought up with this mentality of what happens on the pitch stays on the pitch. And the thing is, understanding the heat of the moment while the game's going on. For example, I'm not going to lie, plenty of times in the stands I've been there giving abuse to the referee and everything. Not that bad, by the way, but just a little bit of abuse. Not happy with the decisions. But the thing is, once the game is over, I'm not going to go onto Twitter, onto Instagram, start writing horrible messages like they're doing.
It's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's actually getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse.
With all the stuff, awareness they've been doing, you would hope it's been getting better. And the thing is, the racism that Transivia was getting, I could not believe that sort of stuff still happening after the craziness we've had this year.
Did you see the rugby game? Like, I'm being Scottish. Did you see the rugby game and they try to say, oh, they didn't understand? Listen, if two players go down to your knees, even if there's been a mix-up, you just have a bit of self-respect as a human being and go down to your knee as well. I'm not going to get into that, but I just think it's like, people keep saying it's shocking. I think it's not surprising because it's every week. It's like... I mean, it's just constant. Like, it's not stopping. Like, it's not working. It's like, we can put these banners out.
Yeah, they need to do something more to stop it.
Banning stands. If you ban a stand and you affect someone, because it's all about self-interest, that's how people work, right? So if you're at a game and it's a stand, instead one person, because they've not called them out, you ban the full stand. I guarantee the next game they will tell that person and they'll report him himself. It all comes down to self-interest. And I'm not going to change the subject, but I just find it very. I'm actually sick of people just saying it's shocking. It is shocking, but nothing's changing.
About it, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a broken record, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's enough power amongst Sky and all the BT and like, there's enough promotion. There should be more actually promotion, but they have enough power and authority to do something, and not for people just to say, oh, it's shocking, and we'll have a debate and a discussion about it and say how bad it is. They need to do more than that, and you're spot on, Conroy. And until that happens, it's just going to be a debate and it's going to be a discussion and it's just going to be talking on it after every game, and it's not good enough because, you know, we're in 24th century. Things should be a lot better, and at the moment it's unfortunately it's improved in some ways, but it's still a long way off, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, maybe I'm not being fair. I know it's improving a bit, but I just find that, like, you still get the people who get loads of tweets, and I retweet it myself sometimes, and I'm like, do you know what's the point? Because we're retweeting all this message, and it's like, obviously, I don't mean about like the knee. That's brilliant that we're still doing it. But I'm just talking about you see someone out saying that. Like, I'll maybe take you into my next point. My point was about the game. Is that all right? Or safe? Did you want to say something?
No. Carry on.
Right. See that game, right? See talking about big personalities commenting after and how they're not actually thinking intelligent about the effect that's going to have. So that game with West Ham, Fulham, is, Finn said, probably Fulham should have won. But like, at the end of the day, right, I have watched that decision 5 times, right, and I'm still not sure, because you can say what you want about aggression, right, but why would you put your elbow up? I have played football. I would never in my life. Who does that? No one does that. It's not a red card.
Grabbing him and he's just getting him off, like you said.
Yes, no, I get that. I get that thing. So I don't think it's a red card. But what I'm saying is, Mitrovic dies. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, Souček might be the nicest guy on the planet, right? But don't. I was going to swear there, right? But like, you don't put your elbow up like that. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah. You can easily not do it. It's not like he has to go like that.
Exactly. But he's a nice guy. Everyone's saying, listen, right, come on, mate, right? We're no idiots here, right? I'm not saying he shouldn't have got sent off. I'm not saying that because Mitrovic makes it look falls over. But all I'm saying is, I've watched that 5 times and I'm like, but why would you put your elbow up? It's stupid. So then what I'm saying is, I understand why there was it wasn't a red card, but I understand, like, right now people forgetting that there's a lot of pressure for the letter of the law. So for that decision, all the decisions that's happened this season, that is the one decision that Jamie Redknapp has to come out. And I like Jamie Redknapp. He goes on Instagram. There's a nice wee pally on Instagram. John Terry's commenting. What a great guy John Terry is. He's commenting. Got Danny Murphy and all. I'm like, these guys are saying this is what's wrong with. Oh, it should be the man who's quiet. I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry. So Mike Dean, who I think has been one of the best referees, right, has got to stay quiet because. Why? He's got to deal with 22 footballers who are probably giving him abuse all game, a stadium that's giving abuse all game, who's getting paid a tiny amount of what they're getting paid. So why should he stay quiet? Why is he not allowed to enjoy the game? And why should he? I just don't understand. Like, see, if we keep abusing referees, right, there's going to be no one to ref a game. Like, it's that simple. There needs to be respect. Rugby, there's respect. There's no respect in football for referees. I'm pretty sure Jamie Redknapp, Danny Murphy, John Terry, they all called them everything under the sun. But you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that on the street. So why do you get away with that here? I get a bit annoyed. Like, I've swore at refs. I'm not saying I don't, but I can't believe the hypocrisy is like all of the decisions, you called him out in that, and it's not a coincidence, and I'm not saying he's meant, of course not meant it in that way, but the guy's got death threats, and that's the one decision where I'm like, I can understand why they're not sure. Whereas, you know, the Everton and Liverpool, it's like you don't come out about that and start. I just find it a bit.
Yeah,
and
that was
one
more
rule for one and
controversial.
one for the other, and it's just like, it's just. I really get annoyed. Like, I've swore at refs in a moment in that, right? But I just don't understand why people, right, can't understand that without refs, you don't have a game, right? And it's like, he should be. Why should he be quiet? Literally, he's got to control 22 footballers, right? And I just think sometimes, I see after a game, Liverpool play rubbish. It's like, oh, the ref was terrible. Why is that mentality? Why do you care about the ref? You should be good enough to win the league. This is not the Hodgson years, right? And it's just, I don't know. I just find sometimes that really annoyed me. I saw that and I was like, the Instagram post, and I'm going on a bit of rant here. Sorry, guys, but it just...
No, it's okay. It's a good rant. It's a different type of rant, because you're even making me think different about it now, because obviously, like, we've all had a go at a referee, but you have to have the respect to just kind of say what you have to say, and that's it, and forget about it. And look, as Finn said, it was justified in the end because the decision was overturned. It didn't happen straight away, but it couldn't. It had to be reviewed. And it's a good point as well, Conroy, about Everton and Liverpool. That was a lot more controversial. There was a couple of decisions in that game that were like, how could he give that? All right, you get one or two wrong, but there was a couple of decisions in that game that went wrong. And obviously, it's been Liverpool fans, we were very annoyed after that. But I just got over it. I forgot about it. I had me rant me say after that, but I would never become abusive to a referee, because, as you said, without them, it's nothing. And like, I mean, why would you do that? It's another human being.
I'm not saying there's emotion. Yeah, I just think sometimes it's like pundits forget that, like, you can't win. Was it John Moss had a joke with Guthrie, and then he said he was laughing, and I'm like, who are you on the park? Like, what do you want him? Do you want him to, if you swear at him, he'll book you and send you off? Do you want it to be that way? Because football can be like that. We can make it like that. They don't talk to them, and if they swear, they book them. Or if you want to have a bit back and forth, you need to respect what they say. And it's like, if I actually think they should be mic'd up now, because it'd make footballers they'd have to actually perform a lot better vocally. They wouldn't be allowed to swear at them as much, because that's the reason they don't do it. You might say it's because they make mistakes, and probably there is a few refs who aren't great in the Premier League, but I guarantee there's better chances that footballers couldn't hold their mouth and be professional for 90 minutes. So, and I'm not saying they need to, but don't blame refs why they're not mic'd up. And don't get me wrong, there's a few refs this season who had, like, maybe, who was the one who was on the VAR of the Everton game? I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not his biggest fan, but Mike Dean has got credit in the bank. But when it comes to referees, that credit goes out the window, because people are just like little babies when it comes to that. Like, wow, let's have a go at him. Like, the guy got death threats. That's ridiculous. Like, it's shocking. But yet again, it will continue to happen. And it's just, I just thought I'd say that, because I heard someone, they keep complaining about VAR and stuff. I was like, well, if you don't want VAR, as soon as we go back to normal refs, do not complain after the game like how bad the refereeing is, because you can't have it both ways. And it's just like, I guess that Instagram post, I just thought that's probably made the hate he's got 10 times worse. And then all the footballers, I don't know if you saw it, but all the footballers commented on it, and I just found it just hypocritical. So hypocritical. Sorry, guys, I went on there.
You my perspective on the whole fact as well. And the thing is, look, I know what happened to Mike Dean was completely banned out of order. And to be honest, sometimes I might go to social media to give
criticism's different though, mate. Criticism's so different. Abuse is like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's
unacceptable. And the thing is, I can't believe it goes to the level of death threat. It's like, football for us is more than life and death, but to go, and you're right, who's going to want to referee games anymore? These guys get abused,
especially because he's a top ref though. Like, he actually is though, and it's like, if he's getting abuse, I just think there's just no line, is there, anymore? The line is gone. There's no respect.
We've seen the impact that abuse has on players. Like, for example, when Curtis Jones was getting abused, it wasn't the nicest situation for him, and the effect it had on his performances. And Trent as well. And the thing is,
Nico Williams as well,
are under the magnifying glass, because not only if they make one mistake in like, for example, if a footballer makes one mistake in a game, it can be picked up by his teammates and spread across the team. But with the referee, that one small little mistake could be the difference between a win and a loss. And the thing is, the amount of pressure that gets put on them in the game, and still week in, week out, they're still trying their hardest. No referee comes out onto the pitch and purposefully says, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I give one bad decision. They don't come out with that intention. They come out with the intention to do their job, especially someone like Mike Dean, who's very professional about the work that he does. And he just tries his hardest, and there's no reason why any fans really should be going as far as, I don't know, messaging him personally with threats and this and that and everything. Like, it's just so bang out for
He's just doing his job at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, and the thing is, I agree there is a bit of competency problem, Darren. I think you're going to say that about I do think there should be better refs in the Premier League. Like, more money should go into that. I do agree. But Mike Dean has got credit in the bank in the sense of, I've watched him ref a lot of games, right? And then the hypocrisy continues with fans, right? So in the Champions League, I think was it the Midtjylland game or the Atlanta game, it was end to end because the ref let the game go. Atlanta. But then we complain because they're not getting enough fouls. So it's like, what do you want? What do you want it to be stop and start? Like it's like, do you know what I mean? I like when refs do that because it's a contact sport. You know what I mean? It's a contact sport. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I just get I don't know. I just think sometimes we've all got short memories and we need to look. You know what's happening.
I think all of us here have probably, well, if we didn't, we kind of understand when we've all played football growing up, the last thing you wanted was the game being stop-start. You kind of wanted things to flow and tackles to go in that were not malicious, but okay, they're probably controversial. That should have been a free, but you want the game to flow. You want it to be quick and you're spot on about it. I mean, but texting referees and all, I mean, the decision's made, it's over.
But can you imagine after the game you go home and you're like, I'm going to text Mike Dean, and it's like, do you know what? I think he's looked the best out of this because he said, I'm not refereeing because I've got self-respect. I'm not going to put myself on the fire line. You know what I mean?
It's shocking that he's had to do that. It really is. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, but you've got to take into consideration it's not everyone. It's probably just like 15-year-old West Ham fans that are just unhappy because Suchek's the best player and they're going to miss him. But now, one, they're not going to miss him. I think also VAR plays a massive part in this. If you're a referee and there's fans in the ground and you're waiting for like 2-3 minutes for them to make a decision at Stockley Park and they go to you, oh, we're not sure. We've got about 50 different angles. We've slowed it down.
Slow down.
It's like everything. You can't physically have everything. And you go, oh, we're not sure. And there's a lot of pressure on that referee to go, oh, I've made a mistake here. And then that puts in their head, oh, no, I've made a mistake. So they're thinking, oh, I've got to overturn it. So that's like a 60% chance of them overturning, you know what I mean? Because in their head going, I've made a mistake here, haven't I? So when they go over to the monitor, they get played it again so many times. And then they're there for another 2 minutes and they have to come back on the pitch, make a final decision. There's so much pressure on them because everyone thinks it's their fault when really, if VAR isn't in the game, decisions go the way. I know people will still moan, but I think majority of people would prefer one or the other way. They just want to either keep it in the game or just get rid of it for good. Because
what do you think, Finn? Do you like VAR?
Well, for me, I like it, but I feel like for me, you just need to make the odd 1 or 2 changes. I know anyone can say that, but I feel like for me, just decisions. They've got so much technology at Stockley Park. I feel like for me, they need to just get proper people that know what they're doing. They can be quick. They don't need no longer than like 45 seconds, I'd say, because it slows the game down. And if you're stood there for 2 minutes going, is it going to be a pen or not in a big game? Pretend like that Salah one got overlooked for 2 minutes. You stood there thinking, is it going to be a pen, is it not? And for me, if you're at the ground now, you cannot celebrate a goal. When we go back, we cannot celebrate a goal because for most of the time, every time I see Liverpool score, I don't celebrate because I feel like, oh, is Pinky's going to be offside or something? Like, you don't know. And every week, something else seems to be happening. Like the Villa one, that was a rule for some reason when Rodri ran back on side or something. Then that got changed. And there's just rules left, right and centre, like the shirt line, that counts as handball. It's just like, I feel like we just need to be 1 or 2 tweaks in it, then I'd be fine. But I think there's some decisions like the offsides, they're quite good on it with the lines, but they've got better at it, may I say. But I feel like earlier on in the season, some of them were so stupid. We've had the Sheffield United one last year with McGoldrick. He was like offside by not even. It's like Miller. It's like so tight. There's like nothing in it.
Against Spurs,
But what I'd like to see, like Salah said in his interview after West Ham, in foreign countries, you give like the attacker the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? If like the on like level or the
Holland, the 10, it's original decision,
You give them the benefit of the doubt to stay on side all the time, and that. I feel like for me, that'd be a lot better. But some tweaks with the handball and offsides and that. But I feel like for me, everyone just gives the ref abuse because they're the only ones they can see. When really, the people at Stockley Park are putting a lot of pressure on them. Like everyone's just looking at the on-field referee going, "Oh, what are you going to do? Oh, you're shit. You just get a red card and it wasn't." You know what I mean? It's all pressure on them because they're the ones you can see. But at Stockley Park, they're hiding away, going, "Oh, sorry, mate. We've looked at it at 172 angles, but we still don't know." So it's just it's so much pressure on the referee.
Do you think a time limit would work? Do you think Do you think a time limit would
Yeah.
You think a time limit would work? I think it would, because if
then
not,
you can't make a
original
decision, just scrap it. Yeah, and then if you can't make a decision after 45 seconds, go whatever you give first of all, just give that. Because if you can't make a decision, then something must be up. And like, when they're checking a goal for like 30 seconds, you're going, it's going to get overturned, or it's going to be given as a goal, because why do you need to look at it that many times? It's either onside, offside, handball, not handball. It's not hard, you know what I mean? And some obviously are, but for me, when they're looking and looking, you find think to yourself, they're going to give this, aren't they? Because why would they take that long if they would have stuck with the normal decision? But for me, a time limit would be perfect, because there's no arguing with that. If it's too hard to decide, give what the referee given. Years ago, there's nothing like this, so you're stuck with what the referee said. But yeah, I'd like to see some changes.
Definitely. So I'm going to move on to the next game. Man United Everton. Calvert-Lewin with a last-minute equaliser against Manchester United made me a very happy man, even though I don't usually like Everton scoring. But it just meant that we've got a higher chance of Man United not landing above us at the end of the league. I'm going to let you guys voice your opinions on that game. I just need to get my Mac charger.
You go first, Finney, because you need to go, don't you?
All right, yeah, go on. For me, obviously, you never like Everton scoring or United scoring. I hate both the same. I just can't stand both of them. But I feel like for me, the Everton last minute goal, I think a lot of results went our way this week, the weekend just gone. We obviously had Leicester, who are ahead of us. They dropped points, which was a massive chance for us to go third, which obviously we didn't take. But then obviously Everton scoring in the last minute is good. Both teams do get a point. No team takes all 3 points. But yeah, I feel like for me, the first 45 minutes, United dominated Everton. I watched it, he got the ball and just went backwards. He was like scared to see all the red shirts in front of him. And I know Gary Neville was saying in commentary, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin were running in the channels so much time. The ball was always on, and you get people like James Rodriguez who just turn him back, giving it straight back to Godfrey. Then he goes back to Olsen, then he just boots it up, and then United get it back. But then second half, they started to be a lot braver. And Jossie got them in. World class managers gone, all right, this isn't right now. You need to find them passes forward. You're 2-0 down, and yeah, a miracle happened. And they played very well in the second half. I think Everton were the more dominant side in the attacking sense. They had a lot of chances. They were putting a lot of pressure on the defence, but United obviously dominated the ball, which was expected of them. But for me, I think Everton did deserve the draw, especially in that second half. First half, they got battered and deserved to concede the 2 goals. But for me, Bruno Fernandes, world-class player, he can just do anything, obviously. The pen merchant. But yeah, for me, it was a great result for us, and so was the Leicester one. It all panned out perfectly for us. Not Everton winning, United winning, a draw. We could have gone third, and yeah, we blew it. But yeah, I was happy with that result, because I hate both of them, and a draw is perfect in my eyes.
Yeah, I missed all that whole discussion, but it sounded quite interesting anyways. Yeah, so that takes us on to the next game, which is, I've lost track now. Oh yeah, Spurs versus West Brom. Quite an interesting game, to be honest. It was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
I was trying to get my bearings.
Do you want to take this one, Darren?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say in it, so it'll be short and sweet. I didn't get to see it, but I've obviously seen the goals. Kane's back, and he's so reliable, isn't he, for Spurs? And he's breaking record after record. And it was a good win for Spurs. It was 2-0. They needed it. They're in a bad run of form. And West Brom probably need them more in terms of where they're at. But I don't see Big Sam making any kind of great escape this season. I think there's too much ground for them to make up. They don't really have a lot of quality or goal scorers in the team. They're a side that if they need to get something from a game, like go to Anfield or Old Trafford or something and just hold out a 0-0, 1-1 or cause problems, they can do it. But I don't see them as a side that's going to get 2 or 3 wins in a row. At the moment, as it stands, Spurs very inconsistent, but it was a big win for them. They needed it. Look, Spurs will always let you down, won't they? They're a real hit and miss team, and a lot of the time they've missed and hit. But I think they got to start giving Bale time. They've nothing to lose in there. He's a world-class player, which we know of. I don't know what the story is with his availability, but if they get him in there, they can only be a better thing, and they get more goals from him. But they're a one-man band, I think, really, with Kane, because when you see he's out of the team, they drop a lot of points.
And Son doesn't play as well when he's not there as well.
Yeah, and that intensity's not there, that energy, that drive, that even creativity. They're missing a huge spark with him over. But it was a good result, I suppose, for Spurs. Clean sheet and 3 points, because that's something they found hard to get 2 of those in one game of late, especially.
So, I mean, with Bale back, and I wanted to touch on that a bit more. With Bale back coming back to Tottenham, I genuinely thought that this season was going to be a very different season for them.
Yeah.
I thought Bale was going to, I don't know, he was having a bit of a poor time at Real Madrid, as everyone knows. I thought he's going to come into Madrid. I thought he's going to come into Tottenham and he's going to start unleashing that Bale that we once saw in the Premier League a while ago. But he just doesn't seem to be getting into the game. And I don't know if you can blame it down to the manager's tactics or if Bale just isn't in the game anymore. Do you think, and I'm going to ask Welford this one because I know you have to go soon. Welford, do you think that Bale will start to become a better player as the season goes on, or do you think he can go back to a version of his former self?
Obviously, he was class at Tottenham when he was a lot younger. One of the best players that ever played for Tottenham in the Premier League, in my opinion, and what I've witnessed of my day and age. But I think for me, obviously, Real Madrid again, they just write people off in the first season if they don't get so many goals or assists, and they just write them straight off. But I think for me, they've got nothing to lose. Tottenham aren't going to get anything, not going to win any trophies this year, and really, they're not. They might have a big chance in the FA Cup or so, but not going to really win any silverware yet again for another year, I reckon. They've got a very slim chance of getting top four, in my opinion, again. So I think there's nothing to lose. There's no pressure on them really to win loads of games. Obviously, a lot of people want to see them win. Obviously, Tottenham fans want to see them maybe get a bit higher up on the table, just come out of that top four and maybe get Europe, which I think is still on for them, definitely, but it's going to be tough. So many teams around doing so well. But for me, Bergwijn, I do like Bergwijn, but he's not a Tottenham level player, in my opinion. You can't have him playing week in, week out. And for me, Bale is the exact same. He's not at the Tottenham level who needs to be playing week in, week out. But I think if you put him in the team, starting him with Kane and Son, which, look at Kane, when Kane's not there, Son is nowhere near the level that he can get to. But when Kane's there, feeding balls in, sitting a bit deeper so he can have the free roam in the front. You can see, I feel for me, there's nothing to lose with Bale. Bale and Bergwijn, the exact same player. Bergwijn might be a bit more hard working, but for me, Bale's got a lot more class, I think, in him, but he's just not producing it yet. But for me, if you start him a couple of games on the bounce, he'll start getting his form, start scoring a couple of goals, and hopefully them three can be like R3 and start scoring a lot of, well, not hopefully, not scoring too many goals, but doing well, because to be fair, to come back to his club where he did so well and made himself, it'd be good to see him score and being in the team, which I think he definitely does. But with Mourinho, he's a tough nut to crack and try and get in that first team. So, but yeah, good to see him start.
Spurs are one of those teams that have dropped off more than Liverpool, actually.
Yeah.
Welford, someone's just messaged me saying that they love your accent. You sound like Jamie Carragher.
Thank you. It does mean a lot. I like to go. I need to go out.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you, Welford. All the best.
I'll see you all on Saturday. Hopefully, Liverpool can get another win. A
Big
win.
Just a win.
Just one win. Yeah. See you, Welford. Take care.
That's it. So, actually, I think Conroy's internet's gone. But next game after that was Wolves versus Leicester. Now, it was quite an interesting one because after the Manchester United Everton result, Wolves had a chance to go Leicester had a chance to go second in the table. And it kind of worked in our favour massively that there was a draw. A Wolves win would have even been better for us. But this season, I mean, the game itself was, I can't exactly remember many talking points. I only watched the highlights. But this season, though, Wolves have gone through so many ups and downs, pretty much like a lot of the Premier League teams, a bit like Southampton, a bit like Man City, and a bit like Liverpool as well. So many ups and downs. And at one point, Wolves had a set of players that looked like they were absolutely incredible. But as the season's gone on, they've dropped off a little bit. And I think it was last season or 2 seasons ago, both of them, where Wolves were playing European football. And I never thought I'd see the day in my life. And they just seemed like they were going up, and becoming one of the upper Premier League teams. And as time has gone along this season, they've plummeted down the table. Actually, they are currently in 14th place. That's
14th.
Southampton and Arsenal have all three been having really bad seasons. And I don't even know what their form is, but it can't be fantastic. What's going on with Wolves? Like, what are they missing? Because I remember earlier in the season, people were talking about Adama Traore. You had Sais as well, who was on my fantasy team. That's why I remember his name. Yeah. And it just doesn't seem to be working for them. They're not scoring the goals that they need. They're not getting the points that they need. And why is that? I know Leicester's probably not the best example to give, but why are they not generally doing well?
I think the expectations were set so high. So if with them, the last 2 seasons, they've done really well and probably punched above their weight. I think a lot of us I'll come back. A lot of us,
I don't know what happened.
they done really well. Wolves were a very competitive side, especially when they went to Molineux. We seen them there beat City. They were 2-0 down, weren't they, against City? It was the last season, and they come back 3-2 against 10-man City. Like, they just lost that competitive edge. They've lost 10 games this season. They've drawn 6, which is really bad for them. But I think Wolves are probably in a position where when they first got promoted, they probably thought they would have been. It's only happening now. They've lost a couple of players. They've had a couple of injuries, a couple of issues this season. But I do expect them, as the season goes on, to be that bit more competitive. And I don't think they'll finish in the position that they're in now, 14th. I think they're definitely worthy of a top 10 finish. And I think that's probably 10th, just above that, is probably the best they can expect now at the moment. But it's been definitely a poor season from them when you compare it to the last 2 seasons. But I think overall, with the strange season it's been, like, there's a lot of exceptions made this year. I think it hasn't been as bad for them, but when you compare it to the last 2, it has been, because obviously I don't think they're going to qualify for Europa League this season, and they lost that competitive edge, really. You know, that they're just not the same team.
Exactly. And I wanted to speak a bit about Leicester. I'm going to ask Conroy this one. So at one point in the season, Leicester, Spurs and Liverpool were the top 3 in the title race at one point. And as a Liverpool fan, I said that I can't imagine that Leicester and Tottenham would be able to keep their form. And at one point in the season, both of those teams would bottle it. I didn't expect Liverpool to be included in that equation. But Leicester now sit 3rd in the table, 3 points above Liverpool. Do you think they're going to maintain the top 4? And do you think, and I know it's a big stretch, that they may have a run-in at the title race?
Don't think they'll have a run-in, but I think they could make the top 4. I was quite strong what I said last season, that they were very, very unlucky with injuries, like incredibly unlucky. Like, people underestimate, as Finn said, Ricardo Pereira. I would argue that he gets dismissed as a right back, but if you watched him for Leicester, considering he's got good players but not as good players around him, before he got injured, I thought he was frightening, like amazing defensively and very good in attack. I would say, I don't know, I think Leicester, I might be wrong, we might get proved wrong, and again, if they don't make the Champions League this year, I think you can maybe say that it is just, it's maybe last year wasn't unlucky. It was maybe just that they're psychologically they're not going to make it. It's maybe Bottle's a bit harsh, because the club to get Europa is still quite a good achievement from the start of the season, even though I know they dropped a lot of points last year. No, I think they'll make it. I do, because I think Madison's hit a bit of form now. I know that's a draw there. It's not a great result, but other teams are dropping points. It's not like last season. So Leicester have got that kind of rick in them. You know, they lost to West Ham at home. They can lose a game like that, but because other people are dropping points, I think they'll make top 4. I don't know which order. I don't think they'll have a run in, but I could see them making a top 4, because I think they could beat the teams around the battle as well for it. I don't know if you agree, but no, I really think they could make top 4.
And you know, you say that, thinking about it now, there's not a fixture in the Premier League that could happen where Leicester are playing a team, and I would say it's a definite loss for Leicester, because genuinely any team they come across, there's a big chance that they can win the game. It's a shame that they didn't beat Wolves for them. It worked in our favour. But we're going to move on to the next game, which is the one we dread the most, the Liverpool Man City. And I don't want to talk about it for too long, because I think I will.
Crystal Palace Leeds? No, I'm only joking.
Liverpool City, I mean, there's so many.
I've said enough.
Oh my God, there's so many. I could go on about this game for ages. But you know what? I'm going to go straight for Alisson, yeah. And I just want to ask, like, the thing is, I've seen a bit in the sense of the reaction of Liverpool fans. Like, there was the instant impulse of, oh my God, what's he doing? Terrible, get him off the pitch, bring on whoever's on the bench, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. And the thing is, I hate that. I hate that so much, because I don't think fans, a lot of them, like, to be honest, I don't think a lot of them have even played football for school or anything like that to understand the effect it has on the player. Like, I remember once I made a mistake and I got taken off the pitch, and genuinely, I can't explain how scared I was walking back on the pitch that I'm going to make that same error again. And imagine playing at a Premier League level, knowing that, in fact, now that people aren't even in the stadium, that there's probably millions, that honestly, an innumerable number of people watching you, and you've made that mistake once, and then you made that mistake again. You know, your players are going to be like peed off with you. Your manager's going to be upset at you. And then also you've affected Liverpool's hopes, and all the fans are going to be extremely pissed off at you. I mean, then I've seen a small reaction from other Liverpool fans where suddenly everyone's posting pictures of his help in the Champions League. Everyone's posting his picture of the save against Napoli and all that sort of stuff and what he's achieved for us. And I love to see that, to be honest. But do you think that Klopp would not start Alisson in the next game, or do you think that's just straight out of the question?
No, it's not going to happen. I think, look, I would never want to throw any player under the bus, and especially Liverpool players, because I love this current manager, this current team. I love Alisson. What a goalkeeper we have. He's still a young keeper, #1 Brazilian. He's been phenomenal for us. And you go back to that save against Napoli, it went on and had us so much success. It's stoppage time, ball comes over. Lovren probably lets the player in a bit too easy, and he comes out with a world-class save. And we've seen him have a lot of world-class saves. We're going to Leicester this weekend. I remember Leicester 2 seasons ago, we won 2-1, and Alisson made a howler in that game where the ball came to his feet and he just gifted it to them. And look, I mean, every keeper's prone to that. Like defenders, you've seen Virgil van Dijk at the it's very rare it's happened where he's even made mistakes at Arsenal last year. I suppose it was a bit complacent with the League One. I meant more to Arsenal winning that than it did to us. But look, I don't want to be critical of any Liverpool player. He will have left that pitch and would have felt as mad and as frustrated and as angry at himself as any Liverpool fan would have. So he doesn't need it off the fans. In times like that, you need unity, you need support, you need reassurance. And I think that's what we have to give him. And I think Alisson's professional enough. He's a genuine bloke, really, that's, you know, tries to do the most positive and best things in life and give it all for Liverpool, which we've seen. So he's going to bounce back and he's going to want to just come straight out Saturday and make amends for that and just put it behind them, because you see what any top keeper in the Premier League here, any top keeper in world football, whether whoever they played for, internationals or World Cups, they've all had their fair share of mistakes, and that just happens. If you're part and parcel of success, you can't be successful without making mistakes, and he's done that. Regardless of what Alisson done the weekend, we were still going to lose that game. We weren't good enough. Is it acceptable the way we're playing at the moment? No, it's not. And we all know that. It's not acceptable. I seen the players today. There was no intensity. It was very pedestrian. There was a lot of no one really wanted to grab the game and take control. I know Curtis Jones had a good game, Gini Wijnaldum had a good game, and a couple of them had, but we were really off the boil. But City came, they seen the opportunity, there was no fans, they know the ongoing problems at Liverpool, and they were very clinical and they were ruthless and they made the most of it. And you have to sometimes take your hats off to the opposition. I think in this case we do to City, and probably the reason why is because last season they were embarrassed. They ended up finishing 18 points behind us. They went out with a whimper in the Champions League against Lyon, and a lot of us questioned, will they be back? Will they be the same team? I even heard in social media questions about Pep if he doesn't win a Champions League. But the thing with Liverpool is that we've won a Premier League, we've won a Champions League under Jurgen Klopp. We've done it the right way. We haven't went down the billions the City have spent down that route. And I look, there's nothing wrong with that. If Man City have the money, they're going to do it. If they're allowed to spend the money, they're going to do it. And why not? You know what I mean? So, but we have something the City don't have. We've that European Cup, and that's something that they badly want. We've won our Premier League now that we've had it. But look, it was hugely disappointing the weekend. I'm not going to shy away from that. But there was a lot of genuine excuses, or probably, I would say, reasons more than excuses as to why we didn't, why it's not going our way of late. But we'll be back, and I look forward to it. You know, I really do.
Definitely. And Conroy, I saw a massive nod of agreement when Darren said about the fact that it wasn't because of Alisson's mistakes that we lost the game.
Yeah, just clutching at straws.
Thing is, sorry, mate. Yeah, no, it brings me to the whole idea of scapegoating. And the thing is, I never, like, I don't know if it's because I wasn't on social media when I was younger or whatever it was, but I don't ever remember Liverpool fans being the sort of fans to scapegoat. And the thing is, I've seen a lot of other fan bases do it where they look at a game, they look at a thing, and the thing is, like, for example, when Arsenal were going through a bad run with Arsene Wenger, and there was this whole thing about Arsene out, and when Man United have been going through bad form, and it's like that, picking certain players and trying to just blame them for everything. And more recently, I saw Liverpool fans do it with Lovren, particularly with Moreno, Lovren, and in more recent times, doing it, for example, the other day, 2 days ago, the game against Man City, doing it for Alisson and just scapegoating him. The thing is, and even to be honest, you said it earlier about referees, always trying to scapegoat something, saying it's the referee's fault when we haven't turned up to the game, saying it's Alisson's fault when there's 10 other players on the pitch that haven't turned up to the game. To be honest, bar Curtis Jones and Gini or something along those lines, a lot of the players didn't turn up for the game. We just weren't good enough to win that game. I mean, why? What has brought this culture of scapegoating to the club? Or is it just something that's always been there and I've just not noticed it?
No, I would say, so Liverpool, it's no coincidence Liverpool won like the Champions League run first year, and then the Champions League, then the Premier League. So as much like we're not from Liverpool, so I think it's maybe a good analyst to look at it that when you do that, you get more international fans. Like obviously you want the club to be as big as it can, but you're getting new fans. Like it doesn't matter what you say. If you win a Champions League, you get new fans. So therefore, you're getting fans in the era of impatience and social media. But I was agreeing with Dara, impatience and social media, and I realised I think that's why you're getting a lot of fans like that. They might be fans, like genuine fans. They might be fans who are like rival fans speaking. It might just be people who are in the mood to tweet it that week, to get likes or whatever, retweets. My point was, right, there is games where I would say Alisson has lost us that game there, if that in another day. But if you watch football, right, I know we'd spoke safe before that I just think Man City's front three and their attacking play is light years ahead right now. I think you can see how good a coach Guardiola is now. If you watch the movement of Phil Foden, just the front three in general, the movement that was the levels. That's what disappointed me the most. We broke 3 times and brought the ball back to the goalkeeper. We literally had a chance to break and then we kept it. And you might say, recycle it. No, these were chances to go at Man City, and we just looked like we had zero confidence, zero idea. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm sure they're working on stuff, but to me, it's like they used to just do stuff naturally. But then we watch City. I mean, the biggest thing I've got, right, is see Phil Foden, fantastic player, right? See that goal he scored, right? That's not even close to his best skill. There's lots of good dribblers in the world, right? There's lots of good dribblers who go in their good foot because Robbo, for some reason, doesn't know he's left-footed. But anyway, Phil Foden's movement and thinking is the scary part. It's actually not his dribbling. If you watch where he goes, even Sterling, like it's like he'd watched Trent for months and he went, that's his weakness there. I'll just, if you make that run inside there, and then that's how they get the penalty, that's how they get the Gundogan's first goal. So that, for me, Darren, that was the most upsetting thing and disappointing thing, was I just felt, even when we equalised, I felt we're not even going to draw this game. They just looked light years ahead of us, and they looked, I don't know, like maybe I think it's just our front three's coming to the end of the cycle. I don't think it's this big revelation. I think they've done amazing. I'm not saying they all have to go, but I think we have to evolve a bit. And I think a lot of Liverpool fans are probably singing that hymn sheet now that we need a number 9. I've been saying it for 4 months, but fans have been saying it for a year, to be fair. I just think that was the most disappointing thing. And football's not rocket science, right? We've worked, it's been great. It's just not working anymore. Let's all stay calm. It was a bad result at the weekend. Alisson's, I think we would have lost anyway. I think we might have lost 3-0 or 3-1 anyway, because I think City just were getting so much, they're getting in the space. And I just felt like, see, as soon as Fabinho gave that penalty away, Trent and Fabinho just looked scared to tackle when they're coming down that side. And I agree completely, Dan. I just thought, Man City, and do you know what? It doesn't have to be hatred. I don't hate Man City. If anything, they win, they play good football, and that 17-18 season was ridiculous football. I don't think there has to be this big... you might say there's competition, of course there is, but I know that you say they've got billions in that, and I've not got really any jealousy towards that, because I like when Liverpool wins something, it means something to us, you know, we love it. But like, I just think Guardiola has just showed why he's one of the best managers. It's quite simple. He went back, he's thought about what he's doing, he's maybe adapted a little bit, and then it's paid off. And look at the way he's managed Foden for 3 years. Everyone's saying, you need to play him. Paul Merson, you need to play him. Oh, does he? Well, he's playing him now, and he looks amazing. So that's why he is where he is, and that's where you are. So I just think it's a case of, I'd said to Safe before, I was kind of 50-50. I thought Man City could have turned us over. I wouldn't be surprised if we won, and I actually thought the space was there. There was so many chances where we could have played the ball in, and we just looked scared. And I don't know about yourself, both of you, but for me, that was the kind of, that's really highlighted it now, that I think the club's going to get a striker in the summer now. I don't think they're going to hesitate. I think, and Jota's not a striker for me. I like Jota, but I think they need like a proper number 9. Don't mean Andy Carroll. I mean like a link-up 9, a Jimenez if he wasn't injured, or someone of that ilk. I know a few people have said Núñez at Benfica or Haaland, but I can't see that happening with Raiola, unfortunately.
Mbappe, it's not going to happen.
I don't think Mbappe's a striker. I think he's like more a wing forward, but I'd take him. I'm not Darren. Don't let him hear that video. I'd take him.
More of a salad. No, and I agree with you. I think Liverpool will bring in someone in the summer that's number 9, but it's probably no one we've even mentioned. They're going to bring in a shrewd signing, someone that's going to come in with the right attitude, that discipline, that availability where, he's not going to be prone to injuries, because I think that's a big thing when you're buying a player. You've got to be good availability. And you mentioned something earlier about Jack Grealish. But what I do think now at Liverpool is there's a weight off our shoulders. The home record's gone. No, we're not going to win the league. And I don't think we all say it's a marathon or a sprint. I don't think there's 4 better teams in the league than Liverpool, and that's why I'm very confident that we will get in that top 4, and we'll have a good run in the Champions League, because in Europe, I remember on the Rafa Benitez era, even in Jurgen Klopp with the Europa League run we had when he first came in, and in the Champions League then the road to Kiev and Madrid, we've done some sensational stuff in the Champions League, and I watch us at times, the Litz teams, probably not get great results in the Premier League at the time. I think we got 4th on the year, we got to Kiev, but what a football team we were. We blitz teams and we were going out scoring 4 or 5 goals. The only thing was the keeper we were a bit sceptical of, and the defence. But now we have a better defence, even with the defence that we have, and we have a better keeper. So I think Champions League, next week we play Leipzig, it's next Tuesday night, we'll know a bit more then. But I'm confident that we can do something there. But the bread and butter isn't the league. Try and just get as high as we can get. But with that weight lifted now, I'm okay about that.
The game next week. So we're playing Leicester, and I mean, I don't want to talk about it too much, because I'm sure we're going to end up on a couple of streams before the game, anyways, where we can talk about it a bit more. But I just want to talk about the centre back positions. I'm going to give my opinion first, and I want to know what you guys think, because a lot of people are saying. So me personally, I think we should take the risk of putting Kabak at the back, maybe Davies as well. It just depends on how well he gets on and in training, and just to do everything we can to get Henderson and Fabinho at the centre back spots. Now, a lot of people have been telling me that that's too risky to do, and probably not the best decision to make. We might concede goals, we might not win the game. But the thing is, we've had such a poor run of form, lasting all the way from December the 19th. The last good game that I can remember we had, well, I mean, the last time before we went into this form was against Crystal Palace. And then since then, we've had a couple good games here and there, but not anything convincing. And I think we're at a stage now that, why not try it? What, we're going to get another draw? Like, it's not the end of the world. I'd rather get a draw or even a small loss, knowing that we actually tried something different and there's a scope for change in the team, rather than coming into every single game with Fabinho and Henderson at the back, nothing happening at midfield, because there's just no catalyst in midfield and no striker at the front. Do you think I'm right in saying that we should just throw them straight into the deep end, into bearing in mind the team is under a lot of pressure right now to actually pull out results? I'm going to go for you, Conroy.
I see. The thing is, it's a valid point, Safe. See, to be perfectly honest, it's Leicester next, right? See if he starts Hendo and Fab again at centre half. I think I'm going to pull my hair out. Genuinely, like, I personally think he has to put Hendo back in. I said before the Man City, he has to put Jordan Henderson. The proof's in the pudding. Look at the stats. Be a stats man if you want. Look at that. Look at the performance, the eye test. Jordan Henderson has to go back in that midfield, because I've got to be honest, those 3, I know Gini had a good game, right? But it's just not cutting the mustard. It's not doing what he does. And it just proves it, because Thiago's a world-class midfielder, right? But he's just not doing what Henderson does. And I'm not saying you switch. You probably put Thiago, you probably put Henderson in the 6. I think he'll do Fab and Kabak, right? But he has to use one of them. Because, I mean, I actually think, you know what, your solution, I've thought about it and I wouldn't be against it. I just think, someone said the other day, Klopp is actually more cautious than people, you know, when the maybe not Liverpool fans, they'd say, oh, Klopp's gun-ho and, like heavy metal. But he's actually quite cautious when it comes to decisions like that. I can't see him putting Davis and Kabak, and I can see it being Kabak and Fabinho. However, I'm at the stage now where it's like, well, we're losing anyway. So why stop putting square pegs in round holes and maybe just go for it? I think it'll be Kabak and Fabinho, and I'd be okay with that, because Henderson needs to go back in that midfield. But then again, someone made a really good point. Bizzle made the point that you're missing Fabinho. You're actually missing Fabinho controlling a game as well, because he can ping those balls. It makes defences uneasy when he gets it as well. So I think that'll happen. I think it'll be Fabinho and Kabak. I think he's just made the decision that Fabinho is going to be the 4th centre back at the start of the season, and he's just going to continue that. I don't think he's going to change that. I don't know about yourselves, but that's what I think Klopp's going to do. However, just, you know what, this idea of just going for it, why not? Because, you know what, like, we need to change something, because it's not working. Obviously, it's not working.
Exactly. And the thing is, one other question is, we're missing, it seems like, a catalyst in midfield. And I know he's been out injured, but there's talk of him hopefully coming back from injury. Do you think Naby Keita fits into this squad, or do you think he's one of our skin players that needs to go at the summer?
It's his last chance now, isn't it? They've had a rehab to see if you can get him fit again.
I think it's very psychological. I mean, I don't know, but I genuinely, I think that, I might be a bit biased with my opinion on him, but I think that Naby Keita is kind of a player we're missing at the moment, because where he stops, he breaks down attacks very well, and he's almost like your box-to-box midfielder that catalyzes attacks. His short passes and his quick movement, and I feel that that's what's missing at the moment. Conroy, you're talking about it in the City game, where players are just pondering too long on opportunities that are there. For example, there were so many times in that game where Curtis Jones picked up the ball. To be honest, I'm saying it about Curtis. There were so many other players that did it more regularly. Like for Shaqiri, for example, when he did come on, was it Shaqiri? Yeah, and then he came on. The thing is, usually he's a very, very forward-going player. But even then, he was picking up the ball and he was thinking about it too long. Salah's already made the run. The gap's open. It's a very, very small window that he's got to play that pass. And he's pondered on it too long, which means your only option is to go across the pitch or back. And the thing is, that happened. That was such a regular feature throughout the game. And I feel like we're missing like your Naby Keita style player that's quick. And the thing is, I feel like looking at games last season, and the thing is, because football's been so depressing to watch, I've just watched so many of last season and the seasons before highlights. And I've realised that one big difference that I feel that we're missing right now is, the thing is, we've still got the same back three that we had before. Firstly, I don't think Firmino is anywhere near the quality that it was before. And I think if we got a player in, it's really going to challenge him. And either he steps up to the plate, or he loses his position in the team. And it's fair enough, because at this level, we can't hold sentiments and say Firmino was good 2 seasons ago, we have to keep him in the team. It just simply doesn't work like that. And then in midfield, I feel that I just feel like we're missing so much. If that movement's quicker, last season, when the passes were made, the windows were just as small, but we were making those passes. We had the confidence that if, let's just say, Henderson picks up the ball in the middle and he looks up, he knows Salah's going to be making that run. He might have only a millisecond to make that pass, but he trusts him and he makes that pass. And it seems like we're not doing that this season. I don't know if we're scared of losing the ball, if we're scared of attacking, but it's just frustrating me so much. And the more and more I watch the team, it's breaking my confidence watching this team. Like, I don't know what direction we take from here. But anyways, Mike, going back to my question, do you think if Naby Keita was to eventually get into this squad, do you think he would make the difference, or do you think he's one of the skin players that maybe needs to go?
Do you want to go first, Darren?
Yeah, I agree with Conroy there. There is last chance alone for him. I think the only frustrating thing about Naby is it's injury after injury. We've seen him start games, come up at half-time injured, or when it's been a really important part of the game and he's looked terrific, he's then went off for injury. And it's just a bit like Matip, his availability has let us down. But when he's played, I've seen him play, being very creative, very mobile. He's very proactive at going forward for us, which is something he does have that bit of spark. And we've seen him, like his goal against Chelsea last season, phenomenal goal at Anfield. We see he's capable of getting them. He can score from long range. But I just question his availability and his fitness, and has he got the stomach for it as much as what we'd like him to? What a question. But I guess when he does come back now, we'll know more for the latter stage of the season, because we're going to need players, and the big characters and the players that have the stomach for it, we will see standing up now towards the end of the season. And they're the type of players then that we can make a better assessment, the judgment of, and know who we want next season. At the moment, I'm a bit on the fence with Naby, probably like a lot of us, because of what we've seen so far and his availability, of course,
Definitely.
See, wait, Keita, the one thing I'd say is I like how they've said, right, you're not playing, we're not rushing you back, we're going to try a different method to build. I don't even know it's not his muscles, but I know he's like, it's not like he's not got strength. It's like a specific thing, though. He keeps getting the similar injuries, or I don't know the specifics, but it keeps reoccurring. I like that. I like how they say, listen, we need to try something different. We need to scrape it back and look at something different. We need to actually build you up, because obviously Naby Keita in the Bundesliga he's not even thinking about tackles like that, because he's actually beating players. He's in midfield. He's just running a game. So I'm actually quite glad they've tried something different. It's not like, they keep bringing them back and then they keep getting injured. But I just think I actually see, when you think about Keita, we've had such a most successful period in that time. But if you watch what we expected, Keita was meant to be the big thing in midfield, in the sense of, obviously Van Dijk's different. Van Dijk's like he rises, the level just raises with Van Dijk from the first game against Everton. It's just, this guy is a different animal. And there was actually no reason that happened, because he was a good defender, but you don't necessarily go from Southampton and just be this aura, but he just walked into it. For me, Naby Keita was meant to be this midfielder who just, and I obviously think the player's in there, but with Darren, I agree with Darren, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. But you know what, right now, genuinely, because of the form, if he was right, I'd shove him in and see how he gets on, because honestly,
I would,
right, I'm not saying our midfield's been terrible, but I genuinely think a few players, I don't want to swear, but they need a kick up the backside, because the complacency is a big thing. I'm not saying like they're meaning to be complacent, right? But it's not a coincidence that Firmino played better when Jota was playing amazing. And, you know, he had to step up. I think
he's kept on his toes,
Yeah, I don't think Firmino's a striker anymore, number 9. I don't know if you agree. I think what will happen is he'll maybe go, if we get a striker, he'll maybe try to get a number 10 spot in the team.
Yeah.
But then maybe Liverpool fans will be like, well, don't say that, mate, because we want a number 10 as well. But I think like he's obviously his intelligence. I don't know if you agree. Do you think the stats might lie, though? I think, because someone told me he has been pressing just as much. But I don't know. He just looks tired to me. He looks like you can tell he's ran for 5 years solid. And Firmino, he just looks a bit, I don't know. I think he's been amazing. I wouldn't have a bad word to say.
He's played a lot of football. He has, and I think that the going has got tough, and it goes back to last season. We kind of left him off the hook a bit because we were winning the league and we were exceptional, and he did play a pivotal role in it, but he wasn't scoring goals. But then I suppose our reason for that was it's his work rate, and he is the system up there and how he interlinks the play, and he was exceptional at the best of times. But to only score one home goal in the league, and you know, he missed a lot of like sitters as well, a lot of chances that he should have put away. So he obviously hasn't been at his best, but I see him sometimes in that pressing and that work rate that he does off the ball, which I think the system that Jurgen has, you have to really have that work rate off the ball. And his availability's been brilliant. You know, he hasn't been injured, he hasn't bottled it, he hasn't shied out of it, he hasn't, you know, looked for a break. He's just kept going and going, which I think his attitude is brilliant. His availability is second to none. If we can just get him back again, get him forward and get him more goals, get him assisting, it'll be okay. But it's gonna be, I think it'll be an exciting end to the season. I think the competition, how competitive they'll be because they have to be now, and now we're all asking questions. It's gonna, I think it could be a good end to the season for us.
Like, you know, you were saying about Firmino running hard, very hard last season, and Conrad talking about the stats. The thing is, I mean, I haven't personally looked at the stats, but just from looking at it, it seems as though he hasn't kept up with the running rate, and it simply seems that he's not doing it because he doesn't have the same belief that he did last season or the season before, where he closes down defenders and he's going to win that ball. And it seems that this season he just doesn't close them down because he just doesn't believe that we're going to win that ball back, or he thinks that it's not my responsibility to press from the front, but rather when they get past our striking force, they'll end up with the midfield, and the midfielder will pick up the ball for us to go on the attack. And it seems, I mean, to be honest, essentially what I'm trying to say is it looks like he's being a bit lazy, and he doesn't believe that his hard work is going to come to any use, so he just, you know, doesn't do it. It's almost like there were points in the season where Salah did it, and he's the one player that before I saw this once, I've never seen him do it, but I've seen so many other players do it where the opportunity is on, but because he doesn't believe because he believes he's not going to get the ball, he doesn't make the run. But Salah every single time makes the run. And to be honest, last season I was just watching him one of the games because my dad was just like, watch this guy. He runs like 30, 40 runs in a game and he'll only pick it up like 5 or 6 times. And you're like, I can't believe he keeps going. And the thing is, this season, Firmino needs to take a page out of that book because sometimes he just doesn't believe he's going to get it, so he just doesn't go for it. But saying that, I said I didn't want to talk about the game too much. I'm sure we'll discuss about Liverpool so much more throughout the rest of this week anyways. But I want to move on to the second to last game, which was Sheffield versus Chelsea. Quite an interesting game considering Sheffield actually managed to get a goal against Chelsea. I know it was an own goal, but I really didn't even expect that from thing. I don't think Chelsea had the best performance. I mean, I'll go with Conway first. What did you make of that game if you got a chance to watch it?
Well, actually, I followed it on my phone, the updates, but I do know that Sheffield United actually got a penalty, but it got disallowed because it was offside in the build-up. So they actually started quite well. Sheffield United have got a good performance in them, but the problem is, you know what people say about the fans, I think that's really been the main reason. I'm not saying they might not have stayed up, but you can just tell because they do have moments of good play. They've actually got, you might look down at some of the players, but they have got, like, you know, your John Fleck's, Sorry, they've brought Billy Sharp back in, but they've got John Fleck, who plays quite well in the midfield. You've also got, the three centre halves, the movement. They can do good bits of play. The problem is they've just conceded so easily this season. It's like I've watched games where they've actually been in it doing quite well, and they just concede, and it's just.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think Sheffield United, he might have a good chance of coming back up, because I don't think they'll sack Wilder. I think he'll just go down. It'll be a bit like the Dyche thing. They'll stick by him. Why not? He's got them up there. You still get quite a lot of money as well, from the actual process. I think with Chelsea, it looks like they're winning games. You got Tuchel, and it looks like they're getting that new manager bounce at the moment. I know the Wolves' first game was a bit rubbish, but it's a bit like Klopp's first game when we played Spurs, when Origi hit the post, the bar.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great game. Tuchel's a good manager. I don't, let's not beat around the bush. I mean, he's got something to prove as well, because a lot of people label him like PSG, what he done. Everyone's going to win there. And Dortmund, he won the cup there. I can't remember the name of it. DPK Cup. So that's quite an achievement as well. So he is a good manager. Chelsea have got good players, and with a good manager, you need to be worried about that. You do need to be worried about that. But maybe this season, it'll be interesting to see what happens in our next game, because I think a lot of people have beat Sheffield United this season. So I don't know if that's a marker we can judge them a lot on. But I'll be watching the next game, because obviously they beat Spurs as well there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It looks like a bit of form.
But Darren, I've got a question for you. So since Tuchel's come in, he's actually made quite a few changes to Lampard's team. And the thing is, Lampard had this massive focus on bringing in academy players and getting players from the academy actually playing in the team and trying to develop a team to an extent. Tuchel's come in, and there's been so much criticism of him not using academy players. And then on top of that, he's made so many changes. Like, for example, he's taken Zuma and Chilwell straight out of the team. And Zuma's completely off the first 11, and he was pretty much one of Lampard's stable players.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting to see the changes he's making. Do you think he's making changes to go in the right? Do you think his changes are going to take Chelsea in the right direction?
Well, he's had 7 points so far out of 3 games, which is good. And I think it was a good point what Conroy said there. Like, Sheffield United, it's probably a harder game to go away to them now than what people think, because they've went to Old Trafford, they've won, they've had 1 or 2 wins of late, and they've been threatening. But I remember at the start of the season, particularly before 7 or 8 games, I think they'd 1 point after them, but they were losing 1-0, 2-1. They were just edged out games, or particularly when they went to Anfield, they played well, they got 1-0 up, and I thought the rest of the game Liverpool just done enough to win it. But Sheffield United caused a lot of problems that night. Bo come on and he hit one over, and there was promising signs there of a lot of the game, and I thought these are going to stay up here, even though there's only 1 point after a few games. But they just hasn't been that season, whether that's being fans or whatever. But with Tuchel, 7 points after the first 3 games is positive. It's good. I still think it was a bad decision in sacking Lampard. If you bring in someone like that, you have to give them time. You have to stick by them. Like, I think the last 10 managers appointed at Chelsea or something have all been sacked. So when you take that job, you're bound to, no, look, I'm going to be sacked here. We're not just going to end on mutual agreement. So it's crazy, really. But I suppose they've had a lot of success over the years. Abramovich has been very cutthroat about his business, and they've had a lot of money as well to spend, similar to City. So, look, I mean, it is what it is. They've had one way. They've stuck to that. They've been, I suppose, consistent.
Do you think the Lampard thing though was a project, or was it just a stopgap in the sense of they had the transfer embargo, the fans will like this for a bit? I don't know. I just find it's a bit hypocritical. I hear what you're saying, Darren. I don't think Lampard should have got sacked, but this has been the formula. I don't like when people say team's relevant, because I think each to their own. Who you support, that's your opinion. It's not a dig. It's nothing like that. But Chelsea, this guy is literally like Roman Abramovich is the reason they've won so many trophies. So there's such a difference between a good player and a good manager, right? Yeah. But you know that. So how can you not be sincere when it's like, if a player's playing terrible, but in the sense of when it's Lampard, who, I don't think he should have got sacked, right? But the writing was on the wall. You know what the club's like, but that's been successful. You can't have a go at Chelsea for like they've won so many trophies because of that. I think Di Matteo is still the most shocking one, because he won a Champions League and an FA Cup. So they're all coming on the Lampard thing, but Di Matteo literally made you European champions. Surely that's a more shocking thing. But my point is, it's like that's the way it's ran. So I don't know. I just think it's like I was not surprised he got sacked at all. I thought it would have been maybe at the end of the season, but I worry about Chelsea because Chelsea, if it's not working for Chelsea, they're ruthless, and that's how they're successful. And I think maybe Liverpool shouldn't be ran the same way, but I would argue that because our front three is maybe it's time now, and we need to mix it up a bit. I think we need to be ruthless at that. We need to make those signings and not have as much sentiment. I'm not saying you can't because it's the way the club's ran, but there has to be a bit of that Manchester United ruthlessness. Like, listen, I'm bringing Van Nistelrooy in because we need to push that the people who are already there. We need to push the Mane, Salah. I don't think we'll sell Mane or Salah. People keep asking me that. I don't think we will. I think the way with the circumstances, you're not going to get as much money as you want. But with the Chelsea thing, I just like. But I'm not surprised though. So why are the fans surprised if that's your team? I'm not surprised. Why are you surprised? But it's for me.
Yeah, and like that, if Tuchel does well, he'd be forgotten about, and they'll turn around and say that it was a great appointment. Do you know what I mean? But I just think he's very limited experience on part at Derby. They knew that bringing him in. So why bring him in? You knew he wasn't like his best chance he probably had was winning the Super Cup that time against Liverpool, where they played well, whereas they pushed us all the way in the final.
He did play well.
Yeah, that's not good enough for him. That's not the expectations. Then they gave him a lot of money, but there was no pre-season. He brought in so many players from all different clubs, different cultures. To implement those, you need a pre-season, and you've got to give them time. You can't expect, even though it was 200 million. But look, you made a good point, Conroy. Abramovich has been here. He's done it. He's been around the block. He's doing it since 2004, really, 2003. And he's got success. He's had Ancelotti. He's had Avram Grant. Di Matteo, I think, was
Conte,
was mad, and everybody's got sacked. So, like, if you were a Chelsea fan, would you want that? Are you happy with that? I think Liverpool's a bit more historic, a bit more. We have more traditions, and we give managers time. And I think that is the right thing, because I think you have to put football, as much as there is a business, and you have to be cutthroat about it. You have to have some sort of sentiment, and you have to have some sort of, well, it is a hobby. It's something. It's like, to me, I don't think it is all about success when you're at that. But I can take a bit of success away to have a bit more, I suppose, emotion towards it.
I agree, Dan. I just think it's like, well, Chelsea, that's how Chelsea have been ran, right? And it's like, the thing I couldn't understand is, the thing I couldn't understand is people keep telling me, right, we're doing it this way because we're going to bring the youth through. But my question is, but why? But why? Like, it's not like you're not seeing good football. And it's like, I know Chelsea will say it's about winning. I don't think it's all about winning. I'd actually say the style of football is quite important. You want to enjoy what you're watching. But I'm just like, why? Why would a person say, right, we're going to stop spending money and we're going to just bring the youth through for 4 years? Why would Abramovich do that? Like, I don't, Chelsea fans could tell me that's fair enough, but like, why would they want to do that?
Wasn't it? Because of the transfer ban.
It looks now, like, but I don't see this obsession of we need to bring the youth through. It's like, well, I can't name you. Liverpool don't bring the youth through. Liverpool bring a few players through from the youth. So I don't know many teams who do that. So I don't know this obsession about it, because I think a lot of Chelsea's youth is great, but I don't know why they're suddenly on this train that this is the way going forward. There's not many teams who really do that. There's maybe only a few in the world that are massively successful with that. And a lot of those teams actually sell those players on to keep the club running. So I just found it quite like baffling at the same time. Like, I get you love Lampard, and it's a bit like Gerrard if he came to Liverpool, and I would be upset as well. But I'm also understand that managers are not the same as players. If that was the case, all top managers would be great players, but they're not. Guardiola is a different case, but Klopp is not a big player. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know where this there's a gap, there's a line, and it's been so obvious. I mean, Thierry Henry failed at Monaco. You could see that coming. He just is not a good manager.
Yeah.
You know, but you know what? You can see it's so obvious it's going to happen, but people are like, did you see that?
Yeah,
yes, I did.
And I did see some Chelsea, because I know one or two Chelsea fans that were very surprised Lampard was sacked. And my next question was, well, why are you surprised? I mean, every manager that's been in there since 2003 has eventually got sacked, and they've all had their fair share of success, to be fair. You know, they really have. They've delivered.
Ancelotti won the double, didn't he? And then he got sacked.
He won a league and FA Cup, and he was sacked.
And then he sacked at Everton, the next game.
That was another really bizarre and strange one. Yeah, it's crazy.
It really gives a definition to the word cutthroat, really. But
But they
were lapping up all the trophies. Do you know what I mean? So you can't have if you made your bed, you need to lie in it. That's all I'm saying, right? They've had Conte, Di Matteo, I mean, I know there's been about Sarri, right? But Sarri won a Europa League for them, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, but they were kicking off. He's and I was like, I get Lampard's a legend, and I would be upset if Gerrard, and that's why I'm a bit worried. Maybe he shouldn't come to Liverpool right now. Maybe we should take a bit more time, maybe go to Europe, whatever. But like, I'm a realistic person to know that management is not the same. You don't automatically be a good footballer. Zidane's and that are exceptions, and they're also going into teams that are already great. So
building a team, and the thing is, like, there's this whole thing, and I mean, I don't know what it was like before, but this whole thing about managers coming in and having such a little time to prove themselves. We saw it as soon as Ferguson left Man United. The pressure on the managers that came and went, the pressure on Moyes to just stop performing straight away, and he couldn't. And then he got the sack, and then it happened into the next manager, then the next manager. And the thing is, it was not small names. I'm talking about people like Van Gaal, Mourinho, and stuff. And then the same sort of situation with Chelsea. You're saying with Di Matteo and having to perform straight away. And the thing is, if Liverpool took the same attitude, we wouldn't have achieved what we have in the last few years. Because I remember watching Liverpool when Klopp first came in, and the thing is, we really did struggle at the beginning, and I don't think a lot of people remember that. But for example, I remember like certain games that.
Spurs 4-1. I never forget that. The Lovren disaster class. I remember that one.
And lost a couple of finals as well, There was big questions asked after that.
Yeah.
Seville.
Even watching
that was bad. I think Moreno.
The semi-finals of the EFL Cup or something like that at Anfield. And it was a 0-0, I think 0-0 draw. We lost or something like that. And after that game, I was just like, this clock.
Southampton semi-final, second leg. I remember.
Shane Long scored, the Irish lad.
It was. I remember it so well. It was a cold night, and it was a 5-hour drive home after what was one of the most horrible games. And I'm thinking, sitting in the car, thinking, this Klopp guy, like, I loved him at Dortmund.
And the football looked stale. It's quite funny how you're saying the same things now.
I love the fact that our board, Liverpool were patient with him. They believed in the manager, and they let him express himself. The thing is, this whole thing about managers having to change it overnight. We don't know how long Tuchel even has at Chelsea before they start asking questions. Like, I reckon at the end of the season, if things don't go his way, there's already going to be a couple Chelsea fans out there saying, he's not our answer, he's not our answer. And the thing is, look, the same thing happened with Arteta when he came to Arsenal. I like the fact that a lot of Arsenal fans were behind him because he was an ex-Arsenal player and he's performed for the club and everything like that. But so many fans already I've seen, oh yeah, Arteta did all right for us, but not the answer to our question and stuff like that. Yeah, they're having a bad season, but it's a freak season this season. And I think I love to see when fans and when players back their manager, even through difficult times, and don't give them such a short time to perform the incredible. But I mean, I don't want this to go on for too long, so we're going to go on to the last game anyways. I know this has been like the longest.
That was a good chat, bro. I've been trying to get that off my chest for Chelsea for about a month, so that was good.
No, I've enjoyed it. But last game, to be honest, I actually fell asleep watching this game, was Crystal Palace versus Leeds. And
Rafinha, by the way, what a player that boy is. Rafinha for Leeds. That guy apparently is top of the shortlist. He looks special.
Lost at Leeds.
Yeah, he looks very good.
So good. So watching the game, Crystal Palace have not had the best run of form, but then the last two games, 2 wins on the trot, and then against Leeds was going to be an interesting game. Crystal Palace are actually like the closest team to me. I hate to say, but my local. So I've actually
have you been to Selhurst Park?
To be honest, it's quite a funny story. I've got a season ticket for Crystal Palace as well, just to watch the football.
They're meant to be good fans, though. They're meant to be brilliant fans, actually. They're meant to be.
Yes, this is a funny story. So my whole life, growing up, I went to just Liverpool games, and then when I was going through like GCSE, sixth form, all that sort of stuff, I started going to a few more games at Selhurst Park because a lot of my friends were Palace fans, just to watch football at the end of the day. And I genuinely thought every stadium had a good atmosphere. Like I just assumed that all stadiums had crazy fans, because you go to Anfield and the fans are incredible. You go to Selhurst Park and the fans are incredible. And the thing is, then I started going to a couple of away games, and I remember I went to the Emirates, and I was shocked. I was just like, our normal stadium's this quiet, because there were periods at the game, like 10 minutes periods where it was silence from the fans, and I was like, I couldn't believe this. And then I started going to more games, even at Old Trafford. I went with the Palace away. I went to watch Palace versus United at the last game of the season, and it was so boring, such a boring game. And I couldn't believe, it's not the game that was boring, sorry. I couldn't believe how boring the fans were. And this is one thing I love about Liverpool fans, and I'm so glad that if I had to choose between two teams, it's Liverpool and Palace, because to me they seem like the two set of truest fans, and I love when fans are fully behind their team. And that's why I took the example of Crystal Palace and their frustration with Roy Hodgson earlier, because I've seen the team like 3-0 down to Southampton or something like that, and the fans are still singing. Whereas at certain bigger clubs, it will be 0-0, but because the fans aren't happy, the fans aren't singing. But I've never experienced that at Anfield. At Anfield, I've always seen the players back in the team. And the thing is, you can see the effect it's having on the team now that the fans aren't in the stadium. And that's why I feel like certain teams just will not reach the magnanimity of Liverpool, because they just don't have that fan base behind them to push them that extra little bit further. But I mean, that's a side story anyways. We'll go back to the Leeds Palace game. So Palace had a new signing actually playing for the game. I'm not sure if you got to watch him, Mateta. I think he was meant to be like some sort of replacement for Benteke, because there were rumours of Benteke going to West Brom.
Right.
I mean, that takes us back to Benteke being the biggest flop ever. And the thing is,
I bet Sam could get a tune out of him, eh? Big Sam at West Brom, he could probably get him scoring again.
Yeah, I believe he'll get a bit out of him before he ends up in finishing off his football career. But he's the sort of manager to just.
He had him at Palace, didn't he? And he scored 2 at Anfield. He's like, Benteke's an anomaly, because I actually don't think I've watched him, and I was like, we're not getting to Benteke again, but he sees the things he's done for Belgium and Villa, and even like he does some crazy stuff. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, at the time he wasn't a bad signing for Liverpool either. Like, I was at that game when we lost to Palace, and he scored 2 that day. I think Coutinho scored for Liverpool, but that was the last time pre-Burnley we lost a Premier League game. It was 2017. Crazy.
So anyways, Leeds are currently 10th in the table. Does that come as a surprise to any of you lot by any chance?
No.
Yes
and no at the same time. But to be honest, they just go for it, don't they? It's like, I think there was a spell where like teams were knowing how to play against them, so they were putting like their fastest and fittest players against them because it was man to man. Which, when I say that out loud, it's crazy to go like a game of football that way. But so that's the phone going.
That's it.
But when they were doing that, I looked down. You speak for 2 seconds.
Yeah. So Leeds, I'm not really surprised that they're in this position. So if I think, look, they got a humbling, didn't they, at Old Trafford against United 6-1. I think they bounced back brilliantly from that. And as well as that, they've been the first game of the season, they came to Anfield and they really expressed themselves. They flexed the muscles. They had a go at Liverpool, and they were very unlucky not to take a draw out of that. I think any other time we would have dropped points there. But it was just that resilience at the end. We kept going at them. We got a penalty and we got the winner. But for them to come to Anfield in the first game and get 3 goals, whatever about losing, was brilliant. Started them. Yeah, so no, I think that they've done very well of late. That they're going to stay up and anyway this season, that's for sure. I think if they finish any position above 15th or 14th, it'll be good for them in their first season. They're also not in any cups now, aren't they? Not they're out of the FA Cup, so every game now for them is, I suppose, they can enjoy themselves. They know they're going to stay up, and that will probably, with that pressure raised on them, you'll probably see the best of them, and they might finish higher than what we expect as well. Yeah,
definitely. And the thing is, look, late towards this part of the season anyways, Bamford has become such a player. Bamford and Raphinha have, you know what, just watching them, I don't think they're going to be able to hold on to those players. And the funny thing about Bamford is he was labelled a Chelsea reject when he went to Crystal Palace, really, really struggled at Palace, and then went to Leeds. And I thought, now that he's going to Leeds, I think he went somewhere in between, I can't really remember.
He was at Championship for a bit as well, wasn't he? He was at Middlesbrough.
And that's it, he went to Middlesbrough. And I was thinking, you know what, he's just not Premier League quality. And now he's playing at Leeds.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Exactly how I felt.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I'm saying I couldn't agree more. That's exactly what I thought. I thought he's a good player, but he's a Championship level player. But
yeah,
I mean,
just not out of the water.
Well, the horrible miss he had yesterday with that one-on-one, I'm not sure if you saw it, but genuinely, he's been doing so well. And I mean, it's almost reminiscent of like Danny Ings when he's on form. And I just love to see the way he plays. Another player that's been quite interesting is Raphinha. And to be honest, his name's only popped up recently, and I haven't really had the chance to watch him. I've heard a lot of like talk about him and stuff. But
I've watched him, mate. He's good. Very good player. Very good player.
He'd be good for Liverpool as backup.
He could play anywhere though. He can play right wing. Yeah. He can play centre mid because he's got some pass on him. I watched him against Everton, and honestly, right, Liverpool actually they play fast. All teams play fast, right? But Leeds play fast. Like, The speed they attack in some games, I've never seen. It blows you away because teams obviously try to reserve energy. But I don't know if you've watched the Everton game away, not the home one, when they beat them 1-0 away. Some of their attacks, the 1-2 play, it's just like, honestly, like that Rafinha would be some player. But I'll be honest with you, my favourite Leeds player to watch is Jack Harrison, but he's Man City, so we're not going to get him. But I think he's brilliant. Like, remember the Leeds game against Liverpool when everyone was saying Trent's mistake? No one meant. Did you see his touch? The goal.
Yeah, how good Harrison. Yeah,
I think he's going to be special. That guy, like, really do.
Yeah.
Another player I wanted to highlight this time from Crystal Palace is Eze. Now, Eze's been in the limelight a lot recently because I don't know where he popped out from, but he's
QPR, wasn't it? QPR played.
Yeah. And he's literally stepped into that Palace team. And the thing is, I feel like Roy Hodgson didn't have much belief in him at start, and I'm not sure why. Because every time this guy's come on, he's made such a difference to the game. And genuinely, I feel that he's not going to be at Palace for long. I think he's going to get snapped up in summer. But do you think? I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have had the chance to watch him much, but do you think he's one of those players that kind of steps up at a lower level team and just wouldn't work at a higher club? Because we saw that with Zaha when Zaha went to Manchester United.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think sometimes, right, the players, there's probably hundreds of examples that contradict what I'm saying, but in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of players who just don't stay at teams for long, who've done very well. Like, I mean, Maddison, he was at loan at Aberdeen, 1 year at Norwich, at Leicester. It's maybe the sense of they don't overthink. So, like, Eze I know QPR, he was brilliant last year, Eze. He came in, started slow. I think he scored a screamer, a free kick against the team. And ever since then, he seems to be playing really well. He looked good at the start, but not like the final pass. Yeah. But I don't know, would you say he's a left winger or a number 10 safe? What would you say he is?
More recently, I think he's been playing as a winger. And I think that's just because Palace love a bit of pace abuse. And he's got literally, that's it.
It'd be interesting to see because I don't know if they've got a massive sell on. The reason I'm saying that is because I don't know how much they signed him for, but I don't think they were expecting him to be so good so quickly. So it'd be interesting to see what his contract situation was.
Like, I mean, this is the fact that obviously Palace are like, I'd say almost my secondary club or whatever it is. But it's this fear that he's going to go. And the thing is, anytime a good player comes into one of these smaller clubs, they get snapped up to a bigger club. Either they perform for the bigger club, a bit like Wan-Bissaka, or they go to these big clubs, they're not good enough, they come back, but this time with a depleted sense of confidence, and they're just not as good as their former self was. And the thing is, I feel like we've seen that in Zaha. It took him a long time to get back to where he is at the moment. And the thing is, he went through, I think, at least half a season to a full season where he just wasn't performing to the best of his ability. And I think he's kind of answered his own question of, would I work in the best Premier League teams? No, but Palace is my team through and through. And here's just a comment by my dad, by the way. He just goes, if you ever support Palace, I'll put you under a curfew.
Good show.
Don't worry.
I disagree with Zaha. Like, I think I'm the only one, but I think Zaha I still think he could crack it. Like, I think he's matured as a player.
You know what? There was a time, where he was linked with Tottenham, and there was very small, but rumours about Liverpool showing interest in Zaha. But I think it didn't work because they didn't like his attitude, or I don't know, something along those lines. But when he was linked with Tottenham, I genuinely think that Man United just didn't work in his favour, because I'm not sure if you remember at the time, Man United were under a lot of pressure as it is because they just weren't pulling out performances under David Moyes. And I genuinely thought if he went to a team like Tottenham, he might do it. But the thing is, the more I've seen of him, I just think he needs a team that revolves around him. And I think when you go to the bigger levels, you're not going to get that sort of respect unless you demand it. And I don't think he's good enough to be able to demand that sort of respect. But yeah, sorry, Darren, I'll cut you off.
Yeah, Arsenal put in a big bid from there a couple of seasons ago. I remember, I think Palace valued him at some mad money. Like, at the time, would have sounded mad at 50 or 60 million, and they only made half of that price. And they were determined to sign him because I think they'd had 2 bids rejected. But going back to Easy, isn't it? Or is it Eze, how I pronounce his name, off Palace? He was actually on loan at Wigan Wanderers at one stage in League Two, and he had a couple of goals there, appearances from QPR. But then Palace bought him. I think they got first bid rejected of 10, 12 million or something, but they ended up getting him. I think it was 17 million was the final price they paid, and he's been a revelation for them. He's still only, I think he's 21, 22, so he's a really good player. And like he's again, he could be like another Zaha. I think he's probably better as an attacking midfielder in that number 10 role, but he's been playing a lot on the wing. But time will tell. But so far, there's been promising signs, and with him and Zaha, their Palace, that they've 2 good talents, and they're a handful really, especially Zaha, because he's that bit more experienced. But I think this season, come the summer, Zaha will move on. If there's ever going to be a chance, it has to be this season now, because with Palace, there's no competitiveness there this start in terms of winning something or having a top 6 or 4 finish.
Watching Palace throughout the seasons, you've seen, like, I remember when they first came into the Premier League, and they seemed like they were just trying to hold on. And then there was a point where and the thing is, they never hold a consistent set of form, and it's probably a problem with a lot of teams at the bottom anyways, where they have a little good run, and that's just enough to keep them up in the league, but then they just play poor after that, pick up a couple of points here and there. But there's nothing about the teams. It's like a spear with a blunt edge, and they just don't seem to go any further than surviving, to be honest, or comfortably surviving. And I remember at one point, Palace's target was just first half finish, and they did really well. And I remember, I think 2-3 seasons ago, they were actually fighting for a European spot, and they lost. They went 3-4 games in a row with losses, and it just never worked out for them. But I mean, if they were to lose Zaha and Eze, I'd really do fear for the club that they would end up back in the Championship.
See the thing with Palace, right? And this is an outsider looking in. I've got to be honest, right? I'll look at the attacking players they've got, right? I think you've got to go through this. You've got Eze, who's hit form, right? No, I get they all don't hit form at the same time. You've got Zaha. You've also got Batshuayi, who I thought would have been a very good signing, because he's done bits when he's played, and he for me, like, I look at Palace's attack and I think, do you know Palace, right? The consistency sums them up, because some games, and they've done it in the past, they've went to a top 6 team away from home and they've destroyed them with that counter attack, because
United this season, they went the first game 3-1. They've got some front three. Like, I know Townsend's probably not as good as he was a couple of years ago, but I think Palace are quite good at picking players. Like, they're quite good at signing players, but you're probably right. They seem to always just do enough, and then that's us. But I think they've had quite a few away wins in the past where they've actually shocked teams and destroyed them on the counter. I mean, I remember the Balassi days. The Balassi, what a character he was. I mean, I joke when I say, like, Manny's playing like Balassi, in the sense of he doesn't know what he's going to do with the ball. Like, because Balassi, I'm only joking, obviously, it's tongue in cheek, but Balassi was brilliant. But ability, like agility wise and speed, I thought that guy could have been like, people forget he got sold to Everton, was it 30 million, say, something like that. So he was actually up for big things, and then he got a really bad injury. So, but I remember him, Zaha, and I don't know who was playing up front at that time. It might have been Benteke on form, but I was like, well, that was Liverpool's nightmare. I know they actually didn't lose that much to Crystal Palace, but I think it all comes from the 3-3 game. Yeah, it just plays with the mind, and you just see them running at you. I mean, they beat us at Anfield, didn't they, with Gerrard's last game at Anfield?
3-2. Something like that.
3-1,
3-1.
Terrible.
Don't get me started on the way we ended Gerrard's career under Rodgers. Don't get me started.
That would be 2 hours. It could go on another 2.
Oh, don't get me started. Don't.
There's Balotelli and Ricky Lambert. It was.
Oh, mate.
Speaking of Gerrard, and I know we spoke about it earlier in one of the other streams that we were on together, but speaking of Steven Gerrard, what he's done with Rangers is like a massive consolation for me as a Liverpool fan to form the season. The thing is, like, Gerrard for me he's genuinely been, like, from as far as I can remember, he's been my hero. And he literally, growing up, I always wanted to be Steven Gerrard. No matter what boots he had, I'd beg my dad to buy those same boots.
The Predators on.
Yeah.
Anything about Gerrard, and I know, like, for example, this one's a bit of a childish one, but I remember when I must have been about 9 or 10 years old, there was a documentary about Steven Gerrard, and one of his friends goes that Steven Gerrard's a bit of a clean freak. He cleans his hands every 20 minutes. So I used to think to myself,
remember that on Sky One,
I'm going to clean my hands more often. To be honest, he maybe had a bit of foresight to COVID, but
he's done very well. I mean,
it's so nice to see. And the thing is, you were speaking about Lampard and this thing of bringing in footballers to manage. And the thing is, a lot of footballers, unfortunately, don't work. And the thing is, I feel like, for example, with Lampard, they've put so much pressure on him by bringing him in as a manager for Chelsea, because he's a legend at the club. And the thing is, I feel to an extent the same sort of thing happened with Kenny Dalglish, because he's had such a great experience at this club and he's a hero. But to bring him in as a manager and expect him to fix things when realistically he hasn't had fantastic managerial experience. And I love the fact that even though people at the time were saying that Gerrard's on the plate to potentially become the Liverpool manager, I'm really glad he didn't come into Liverpool's coaching staff and he didn't come in to Liverpool as a manager, because he found a new way to develop. And I feel that, I mean, this is my hope only, that when that Gerrard stays away from Liverpool, not in a bad way, but he stays away from Liverpool and develops himself as a manager over the next 5 to even 10 years. And once he's, I mean, to be honest, 10 years might be a bit of a stretch. But
I think it'll be 2024. I think that's the aim. I could see that happening.
Yeah, the thing is, and I think that's quite possible that he can come in and take over, because I know, like you said, that players don't make great managers, but what Gerrard was as a player,
not all the time, but just like
of
people
course,
just expect it, and I'm like, have you actually watched football? That doesn't happen.
The thing is, there's certain players that I've watched, and to be honest, Lampard, I would have guessed that he would have made a good manager, but like, for example, Steven Gerrard,
he still might. He's still very young. He's a very intelligent guy, Lampard. He still might make it, you know.
Yeah, and he'll use that experience. And Gerrard, like, I mean, what he's done at Rangers, like, you'll probably know, Conroy, being from Scotland, but I don't know a whole lot about the Scottish League. I do watch bits and pieces when it's Celtic and Rangers, and I don't support either, you know. I'm not going to be one of these. There's a lot of people here that support Celtic with the background traditions and that, but I don't support either, but I do have huge respect for both of them. They're both two huge clubs. For him to go there and stop the tender out of Celtic, they've only conceded a handful of goals this season in the league, and the record he's had is phenomenal there, and that was a huge task. And a lot at the time said it was a poison chalice that he went to Rangers, but he's done unbelievable there. For someone with no experience, you know what I mean, and from Liverpool, no affection with Rangers, went in there, did it his way. He was given time, recruited brilliantly, and they're now, the dividends are paying off. They're unbelievable to it. And in Europe too, you know what I mean? They're like, you could look at them.
That's a bonus as well, the European record.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dad just came in the room to correct my facts about Kenny Dalglish, because he won as player
Premier League.
the second spell.
No, I was just talking about just as a manager.
Yeah, but no worries, Dave. But I was just going to add, because obviously I'm Scottish. Maybe we can spend 2 minutes to explain, right? We Gerrard. What I would say is, the reason I think he picked Rangers is the sense of, see, in Scotland, you need to understand, I know you probably know it well, but there is a lot of pressure on that job. Like, that is, maybe not on his own, but he would say that's the closest pressure he's going to get because if he manages another team in England, he's probably not going to feel the same pressure because Liverpool's his team. But Scotland, it's Rangers Celtic, it's huge. Like, you do need to get that this thing with the 10 in a row, right? See, now it's like, maybe seems like he's going to stop it, right? But he lost to Hamilton last season in the 1-0, and they basically looked like they'd done quite well, and then they fell away. And some people were saying he should be sacked and stuff. And it's like, the pressure is high. Obviously, it looks good now, but there's been moments where he's really had to show character, He's actually probably learnt a lot in the job. You know, Chelsea fans were saying that with Lampard. Gerrard definitely has, because it's not been smooth. He's made mistakes. He's got the right people around him, which I think is the difference. He's got McAllister, he's got Michael Beale, Liverpool coach. Hence why Rangers play kind of similar to Liverpool, especially this season. They maybe adapt more like in the European games because they've not got a Van Dijk, so it can't be as high press. But they do play football, and the fullbacks are quite important for it. So you can definitely tell. You can see the similarities, especially Michael Beale was a Liverpool coach and was highly recommended. So it's not a coincidence they're doing that. But as I say, we talk about patience. They've done that for 2 years, playing good football, but we're losing against the teams they shouldn't be losing, not consistent enough. And then they've stuck with it. And this season, they've just been on a run, albeit they've not been playing that great recently. They drew with Hamilton at the weekend there, probably should have lost. I watched the Scottish podcast I watch, and they talk about that as well. But I would say, it might not happen, but I think the way it looks, with the style of play, I can't see Gerrard going to England to manage another team. People might laugh at that. They might say he will, but he was quite strong in that when he was a player, that he didn't want to play against Liverpool. He might go down to the Championship, but he's got the Champions League with Rangers next season. So I could see him staying at Rangers for a few years, get his Champions League experience under his belt, continue the European football, and then it is a pressure as well that will be similar to Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool's going to mean more to him, but I think as you say, Darren, they're both big clubs. So huge. So it's like, what I mean by that is, well, if you're staying in Scotland, it's like, if you stay in England, right? If you maybe go to Liverpool, but you stay in Manchester, right? You maybe every couple of people, right? But seeing in Scotland, if you walk down the street in Glasgow, right, it'll be every person, like, either hate you or love you, if you know what I mean. So I'm not stereotyping, because not everyone supports Rangers Celtic, but it's a big amount. So that, for me, is the difference from going to Derby to going to Rangers, because the sense is, if he goes there, he'll feel that straight away. So he knows that it's not I'm sure there's lots of club of good support, but by him being at Rangers, he felt that pressure, and he's came out on top sometimes, but he's lost as well other times. But that's maybe what's made him so good now, because he's got that experience. So I would say Gerrard's always going to have an aura at Liverpool, but this experience, I used to be against it. I thought he had to do a bit more, but if he stays at Rangers for a couple more seasons, I could see that aligning. I could see him going to Liverpool in 2024. I don't know if you agree with that.
I mean, it all depends on what happens, to be honest, with his time at Rangers, and depends on our situation at the time as well. Because what I wouldn't want is, let's just say towards 23-24 season, it starts going downhill a bit and it's not working in our favour, and Gerrard has to inherit a team where there's a lot of work to be done. Because, I mean, with Gerrard coming in, you're going to get this boost of confidence, and I feel like no matter what the situation is at the time, but let's just assume that Klopp left, Gerrard took over, and the club wasn't at the best standing, and I feel that there will be a boost of confidence with Gerrard coming in. We'll win a few games. Suddenly, fans' expectations will go really high. Steven Gerrard's back at the club. The whole thing, like when they said Ole's at the wheel, that sort of thing. And then suddenly there's just the bubble's going to pop. And then at that moment, people are just going to start saying Gerrard's not the guy, and everything's going to switch. And that's one thing I'm really fearful of seeing at the club, because, I mean, there were certain people who turned on Dalglish at Liverpool, and they kind of forgot that he had 2 chapters at this club. And you can't forget, he's King Kenny, he's not just Kenny for a reason. And I feel the same with Steven Gerrard. There's a lot of people growing up nowadays that are watching this Liverpool team that didn't watch Steven Gerrard, because, like you were saying, look, Liverpool had that Champions League run. We've won the Premier League. Before that, we were in Kiev, and before that, we were in the Europa League final. So we've picked up a lot of new fans over this period of time, and a lot of the new Liverpool fans might not have witnessed or seen what Gerrard played. So if he was to come in the club and get disrespected, like I said, he's my hero, and that would be the worst thing for me, because, like, I love the guy to bits. I've never met him, but I genuinely love the guy to bits. Because
my dad met him in Glasgow. He said he was quite sound.
Yeah,
a bar in Glasgow before the lockdown.
Brilliant.
I think it's one of the want to meet him because they say don't meet your heroes.
Oh, well, possibly. But what I was going to say is the only reason I'm thinking that might happen, guys, is just because, see, with Liverpool, I think they've tried to keep identity with Klopp, and I would say Rangers a similar type of style of football. So I'm not saying that will happen, but I'm just saying if everything aligned, I could see that happening, just because to keep that identity. Because I couldn't see Liverpool like changing it, and they're going to go like for an obscure manager. I think they're going to try and keep it as consistent as they have, because that's what the club hasn't done. They've had Rafa Benitez, that style of football, and then they've chopped and changed. They've went to Rodgers, Hodgson. Right. They've kept changing. So I'm not saying it'd be Gerrard, but whoever it is, I think we need to keep that identity. I'm not saying it has to be heavy metal football, but it has to be of a similar aura, because therefore that's how I think you build a dynasty. Because it's no coincidence that Alex Ferguson obviously is the best manager ever, probably. He is actually, but he would refresh it, but he'd also. Man United had identity under Alex Ferguson, also could adapt, but I think that's the one thing Liverpool, we forget that before Klopp we didn't really have that. We kept changing. You had Rodgers' ball, which was successful at parts, but then didn't really work sometimes, couldn't stay defensively solid for a season. So whoever it is, I'd back anyone, but I just would hope would stick with the identity that we've got.
That's such a good point, because you know what, I've realised that even with certain clubs, you're right, they bring in managers that don't fit the culture of the club. And I think Klopp was a very well-selected choice. I mean, even though we say Klopp chose us, and there's a reason he chose us, because we fitted with him and he fitted with us, in the sense that he was looking for a club where there's a passion, a culture, and a way basically. And by building by that specific way is how Liverpool have reached as far as they have. And you're right, I hate this whole thing of bringing in someone new with a completely different mentality, because that one didn't work, so let's try this one. Okay, this one's not working, let's try that one. But Liverpool have a culture and a way of playing that we've been playing for a long time now. And I hope that we bring someone that can either develop on that or bring something new to the plate, but doesn't change too much from that. And the thing is, it's that develops a club, rather than, okay, this doesn't work, we'll try something new, and loses the identity of it. But
100%.
Honestly, I've loved this conversation so much, but it's probably the longest stream I've ever.
Yeah.
No, it's good, guys.
It's very good, lads. Good insight.
But yeah,
that stuff.
So much. I mean, Darren, hopefully you get your YouTube channel up soon. So
yeah, well, that's the next plan. I mean, with a few people that would go on subscribe, it'd be probably just something. Obviously, talking a lot about Liverpool and probably the week's results, but try and keep it short and sweet. But we said we'd do that tonight, and we're 2 hours and 13 minutes into it. So.
Do you know what? I enjoyed it, lads. I don't care. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah, it was. It was very enjoyable. It was good insight.
Yeah, Conroy,
just
off a YouTube channel or anything like that.
I'm not got it yet, mate. So if you follow me, it's just at Twitter the now. So it's @_Conroy H the now. I will get that, a bit like Daz. I will get it sorted. But it's been a bit of a hectic week. I know Safe had a hectic day as well. I had to have a coffee before because I was about to fall asleep. So it's been one of those days.
Yeah, you're fairly alert now. So
yeah, no, it was good, mate. I enjoyed that. Thanks, guys. That was brilliant.
Yeah, fair play.
Whoever is watching still after 2.5 hours or almost whatever it's been, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment down below. As I said, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.